Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brett Keene from God TV Radio. Make sure you check out my gaming channel, Games You Love, as well as my Brett Keene Superstar channel. I decided to open up about an hour early. Usually I open up about 7 p.m. Had some very interesting people from all different sides come in the room yesterday. The topic of the room starting out, and of course we talk about many different issues and subjects, but what we're going to talk about is atheism, child abuse. Now, we've heard many atheists out there actually make the claim that if you teach anyone that is young that there's a concept of heaven or hell, or that one day whenever you pass away you might be with your loved ones, or whatever the case might be, or you may walk with God, is somehow child abuse. It's a horrible thing to do. But just recently on Facebook, an atheist woman decided to post a comment that a lot of people seem to like, where she talks about how when humans die, all of their particles and properties of their body will simply explode without their consciousness, of course, and go out into space and literally become space junk. And for her, this seems to be the right thing, according to her, to tell children that whenever you die, your existence will be nothing more than space trash floating around in the universe. This is an atheist woman that thinks this is the right idea. This is what we should teach children in school. It's interesting because atheists don't like it whenever you teach your faith in school. They don't want you to talk about what you believe. But the atheist doesn't know for a fact. He doesn't know for a fact if there's a God or not. And he also claims that he has no evidence either way. So basically, he wants to teach children what he believes in the classroom and in public. He believes that it's okay to endorse atheism and the idea that God doesn't exist all over the internet without not knowing for sure. At least a God believer will tell you that we have faith, we believe in things, and we have a hope in things, and that we're open-minded to there being more to the universe than what we see before our very eyes and what's in front of our nose. But atheists, on the other hand, they want to teach our children that children have no purpose or meaning, no intrinsic meaning or purpose, to simply invent a purpose for yourself. They teach children that there's no reason to have any kind of morals and ethics because, according to Darwin, it's all about natural selection. It's all about whoever is the strongest. And if you're weak, if you're disabled, if you can't fight for yourself or defend yourself, too bad for you. This is the type of society that they want. The type of society where it completely obliterates everybody else's views, and if you think differently, then you should be mocked. This is what they want to teach children. So I asked the question again for anyone who wants to click on the link out in the comments and come in here. Is atheism and its downward, backwards philosophy actually the right thing to teach children? Now, some atheists might sit out there and say, well, we shouldn't be teaching atheism to children just as long as we ain't teaching religion to children. But a lot of atheists sit on YouTube making money and making bread and buying material things off of making videos attacking God and religious people. They incite and encourage people to actually deliberately attack religious people and people of other faiths. So is this really what we want our children to learn? Is this really what we want them to understand? Is that it's okay to treat people like absolute garbage? The internet is a perfect example, ladies and gentlemen, of what happens in our world when you don't have structure, when you don't have laws. The internet doesn't have very many laws in place right now, and because of this, a lot of atheists figure there's no God, there's no internet moderators, there's nobody watching over me, so I'll just go to any religious channel, any religious site, and make as many videos as I want, mocking and blaspheming and doing personal attacks towards people all over the community, simply because there's no law in place and no one to enforce it. So what do you think atheists will be like in the world if they didn't have moderation, they didn't have rules or structure, or some being watching over them? Will they act just the same? Well, history says they do, that they are aggressive, they are violent, and if they think they can get away with it, they'll do it. Is this really what we want to teach our children? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Any atheist or God believer who wants to come in and give an opposing view, I'm all ears and I'm waiting. Let's go ahead and get this thing set up. The links are definitely out there for people. Let's see. Let's get this link out here. Live room now. Let's see. I am going to discuss further, but I'm trying to allow people the opportunity to come in and talk about their views as well. The link is in the description. You can come in and talk about it. All right. Okay. The link is out in the comments. It's on Facebook, Twitter, also YouTube, Google Plus. If you'd like to come in and chat, you can. Hey, Inventor Gorilla, how are you doing today?
Hey, brother. How's it going?
I don't know if you got an opportunity to hear what the title of the room is about and what I've been peddling on about so far, but I thought this might be a very interesting subject for you. Did you see the title?
Yes, I did.
I was over on Facebook and I noticed that some people were posting up this image of a woman who apparently is an atheist scientist, and she stated that we need to stop telling people that they may see their dead grandmother in the end and that they might actually get to go to heaven because it's all a lie. And then she turns around and says we need to tell our children the truth. We're nothing but space junk. We're going to, our body is going to be torn to pieces and the properties are going to go up into the universe, and that's simply it. And that seems kind of abusive. It seems pretty harsh to sit there and say. Hey, how you doing there, Mr. Floyd?
Yeah, I think we should let our children decide for themselves. And that's what I've done. I've explained to them that there are people that believe in God and there are people that don't. And my children, both of my children, believe in God. And it's not because I've indoctrinated them or anything. My ex-wife is an atheist, so I don't know what she's told them. But when I was explaining to my teenage daughter, you know, the atheist position,
you see me in there yet?
I went ahead and muted her. Go ahead.
She basically said that that didn't make sense to her. It didn't make sense to her that everything just happened by chance. She says that she's in biology class, the complexity of all the different life forms, it doesn't make sense. And and her argument was there's not enough time to show the diversity of all the species. And I said that it was her choice, and that I advised her to look into both sides, and whatever she wants to believe is fine with me. So I don't think that teaching children that there is a God is abuse. I think it can be abusive. I think both sides have the potential to be abusive. I think a lot of it depends on how you approach it and how you, and what your motivations are.
Well, I mean, IG, how would you nicely go about putting it in atheist terms? You evolved from a slug. You have no intrinsic meaning or purpose in the universe, and one day the universe will contract on itself, and everything you love, everything you care about, every good deed or bad deed, anything you've ever done will simply be wiped out, and you'll be nothing but an unconscious, unguided solar flare in space. I mean,
well, the thing is that these theories are just that. They're just theories. I think the whole religious debate is is kind of at a stalemate. And the same is true for the atheist community. The atheists can't, can't prove that God doesn't exist. They can't prove that um, we weren't created, and that's why I think it's important that we give our children, the facts, and show them both sides of the coin, and let them choose for themselves.
Yeah, but IG, the post on there doesn't have the atheist going, look, this is what I believe to be the case. This is just simply my opinion. The person is making the statement as though they know for a fact there isn't no God, and that children shouldn't be told that they should have any kind of hope whatsoever. And I think that if you're going to sit there and do that, I mean, at least religious people say, look, this is our faith. This is what we believe. But these statements are coming out as hardcore assertions. You feel me?
Yeah, yeah, I feel you. I think it is abusive, to represent something as fact when you cannot say and be intellectually honest. You cannot say that there is no God. You can say I don't believe there's a God, just like the theist will say that I believe there is a God. And I think it's important that we be intellectually honest with our children.
Well, I mean, I'd like to comment on this because I actually have 4 children, and I am an atheist.
We're all ears. Go ahead.
Well, I don't think that the way that I raise my kids is any form of child abuse at all. So, and I don't preach to them that what I believe in is right or wrong. When they ask me about God, because they do, I tell them that I don't believe in that. I don't lead them down a path of how I arrived at this point. I always say the same thing of like, you need to believe in what you're going to believe in as you learn things over time, and whether that's becoming a Christian or a Buddhist or whatever you're going to believe in, that's on you. I'm not going to force my beliefs down my own kid's throat.
I hear you. Do you feel like some of the kind of stuff that you see on YouTube, though, is considered abuse? Because there's some pretty popular non-believers who have had a lot of success at belittling religion and mocking people. And a lot of young people watch these guys, and you can clearly see that it's having an effect on people. There's young people who now think it's okay to go to Christian YouTube channels and tell people to kill themselves or drink bleach and all that. It seems like things aren't going exactly logical and rational, if you know what I mean. Hey, Sugar, glad to see you again.
Hey, Brett, how are you? I have my granddaughter with me, and she's just a baby. So if I have to mute or something, sometimes she cries, and sometimes I have her with me. So yeah, I'm doing great. Nice to see you. But you taunt me with these subjects. Why? Why do you taunt me?
Well, I think it's an important subject. I think we all realize that we're one leg into the grave and one leg still out barely even hobbling, and the children are our future. They are the future of this world.
Agreed.
So Brett, you think it's child abuse to tell a child that there could be no afterlife? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think that if that's really what you believe in everything and you feel that there isn't, fine. But I think things like what Richard Dawkins did at the Reason rally right in front of children and all that, stating that people ought to go out and ridicule and mock people who have different views, I think that that can cause children to get in a lot of trouble. If Sugar were to tell her children, hey, when you go to school, mock and ridicule people who have strange and unusual beliefs, this isn't only going to hurt the other children, but it'll cause her own child trouble. Am I right, Sugar? Unfortunately, she's muted.
Sorry. Yeah, and that's the exact opposite of what my grandmother taught us. Because a couple of people that are here, I don't know. I'm a third-generation atheist, and my grandmother was very, very adamant that we not belittle anybody, especially on religion, because she said that we would be judged harder than other people, and so I think that's very important. And also I like to ask. There's an age, I mean, there's certain stuff that we just don't talk about until they get to be a certain age, and really it's not talked about at all. And then when they get to be a certain age, then the review, just like that one gentleman was saying when I was listening outside, give them their options. They need to know their options. But you do your child a big disservice by teaching any kind of hate or separatism. It doesn't matter whether it's religion or racism or anything. So.
Yeah, that's the big issue right there, Mr. Floyd. I understand that it might have came off strange you just got in the room, but if people are really, really convinced that there's no God and that there's no hope, no afterlife or anything like that, so be it. Say that's what you believe and what you view. But I've been noticing on Facebook over and over, people asserting over and over in front of entire groups. There are clearly young people in these groups, nothing I can do about it though, where they sit there and say, there is no God. I mean, they are making a statement like they know for a fact. At least religious people, when we express our ideas and our views, we say, look, it's based upon faith. We admit that. I'm sure there's a couple people that go across the line and say they know for a fact, but when it comes down to it, it's faith. So we got atheists who are asserting this. What do you do with that?
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of being reasonable. Both sides can be little and taught and so forth. I remember when I was a child, growing up Protestant, I was told by my Catholic friends that I was going to go to hell because I didn't belong to the Catholic Church. So, it can go either way. But I think both sides should simply say, this is what I believe, and these are the reasons why I believe it. Simple as that. I don't think, if you can have a civil discourse, it can be on both sides. But you hear strong claims on both sides. You, for example, from Christian presuppositionalists, you'll hear, oh, well, my God exists because the contrary is impossible. So I mean, that's a pretty strong statement. So again, I think both sides can be very strong in their claims.
I hear you. Anybody else got some opinions? Welcome to the room, Positively Godless. Nice to see you again.
I would agree with what Floyd said. I think both sides can show extremes, and if you're monitoring what kids are saying on social media in regards to extreme views on atheism and voicing their opinions that way, they're still kids. But regardless, I think both sides show extremes, and how they choose to bring up their children. I think the best way, in my opinion, to bring up a child being an atheist is not forcing even my lack of believing in God on my children. I believe in exposing them to all sorts of religion and all sorts of non-religion, and let them arrive at their own place in their own time, because I don't want to indoctrinate them on anything. I want them to arrive there on their own, as did I, and they may not arrive at the same place that I did as they get older.
See, another thing that I noticed too, that I plan on dealing with this subject quite a bit, and you guys probably know where I'm coming from, whether God believer or non-believer, but I hear all these different cases out here about whether a family is religious or a family is mostly atheist, and it turns out that one of their children has become the opposite of what they view. There seems to be disowning going on. There seems to be, well, if you're not going to think like me, then the hell with you. And I think that that's horrible. I think that families should commit to each other, and they should stick with each other no matter what the case is, unless they are physically harming one another. Do you follow?
No, absolutely. I mean, my wife and I have been together for 5 years, and we're of the same opinion of just exposing the kids to as much as we can and let them form their own opinions.
Yeah. Well, in the case of Christianity, that's Christian doctrine. That if you don't believe what the Christian believes, then to hell with you, literally. That's what actually is taught in Christianity.
Yeah, my oldest child ended up going to youth group around 13, 14 years old, and went for quite a while. he's 30 years old now, and he was actually baptized a Christian, I think when he was probably 16 or 17, and I don't think he goes to church anymore, but we had no problem with it, no issue. We celebrated with him. He was very excited, and that's what we did.
You guys do me a favor real quick. I'll be right back in a minute. I've modded several of you. Can you make sure the zoo stays clean while I'm away for a minute? Thank you. I appreciate it.
And just for people in the room, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm coming through fine? Okay. Because I've been having internet issues, so it's a little frustrating. So. I just want to make sure I'm coming in loud because we're recording tonight, so we're actually coming coming back. So yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. I was gonna mess with you and go, what? What was that?
I would have lost my mind.
I know. You're gonna want to do that. Yeah, you know, I of course I'm looking through everything and I see the subject and I'm like, oh, I just can't.
Right.
Like one of my biggest issues, you know, about the whole teaching and not teaching, and I agree with what I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Gray, like the color.
Gray. I'm the same. I feel the same way. Just for the longest time, I mean, you don't really have to teach them anything because they're young. You wouldn't teach. I don't even think you should teach religion that young. You know, when they're really young, you just teach them how to be, how to love, how to, you know, not fall in a hole, basically. So I'm with you on that one. And when they get older, then it's a little bit at a time, you know.
I feel like it's a lot like, you know, when they start to put things together on their own, when they start to ask about the tooth fairy, when they start to ask about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. And to me, while that is a sign of, you know, their, as my wife, you know, said the other night when our 7-year-old asked us about the tooth fairy. She lost a tooth. And she said, Gray, I need to ask you a question. Is the tooth fairy real? And I knew at that moment, for me, it was a proud moment. Like, wow, she's finally putting some things together. All those things are firing in her brain. She's starting to figure this out and ask questions. This is great. And she's going to what she considers you know, an authoritative figure, a parental figure in her life, and she's going to ask for the truth. And I'm going to tell her the truth. And that's how I feel like religion would be with the kids, as they start to just ask questions. And when they do, I just give them my opinion about that, because I don't tell them things based on religion, based on a fact that I have that I've gotten in the bedroom locked up that I'm keeping from them. But in regards to truth, with things that I know are a fairy tale for them, and sometimes, you know, for the benefit of the mystery of a child, I'll reveal the truth when they ask me it. But when it comes to religion, I would handle it, the same way. That this is what I believe, kids, and this is how I got there. But I've got, you know, a wide range of kids here from 16 to 7, so they're asking these questions at different times in their life, when they see different things on the internet or a TV show, or their friends ask them about something, or their friends invite them to a church thing, and they only want to go because there's free pizza, and I don't stop them. They're not going because they're seeking Jesus at age 7. They're going because there's pizza and ice cream, and that's fine. I don't stop that.
You made a few good points. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Gray.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
You know, I have a 12-year-old son, and my 12-year-old son came to the conclusion that there is no God the same way he came to the conclusion that there was no Santa Claus. So it's you and I are kind of in the same par with that. And so almost like you're speaking for me. When I was a kid in a youth group, yeah, you went there because there's people to hang out with. You had friends there. You know, that's my take on it.
Yeah, I had two points on that one. One, I agree with that 100%. One of the things, if you're not familiar with, if it's the first time asking a child that or answering that question, sometimes it's important to say, well, how important is it to you, whether it's true or not? Because you can gauge it. Because I know other family member had that same situation. They said, oh, of course not. And they went, what do you mean? Somebody told me it wasn't true and I was hoping it was. So, and I don't know how you would handle it any other way once they ask, whether you let the fantasy keep going or not. And then the other thing was, the only thing we did with Brian when he went to youth group, we didn't discourage him. We just reminded him that there were many, many religions, and that people debate these issues. All have debated these issues, and everybody thinks their God is the right God. So it would be something he'd
Yes.
have to figure out for himself.
Cool. Brett?
It just got it just got really quiet.
Yeah, it did.
I'm always moving with this child. She doesn't ever want to be. She doesn't ever want to be still. My God, heaven help me. Thank God I'm still young enough.
Is that your only one? Or you said you had a 12-year-old, so you have two?
No, this is actually my granddaughter. My son is 30, and my daughter is 22. This is her child.
Okay. I'm kind of new to Brett's rooms. I was introduced a close friend of mine, and I'm just curious about the is this common? It seems kind of almost attacking the name of the room. Is that commonplace to put something out there like that and just invoke an argument or a healthy debate, or it seems kind of one-sided or almost accusatory? Is that commonplace for Brett's subjects of the room?
I'm back, and that's an interesting question. The title of the room is actually a question. I don't know if you noticed the question mark. Is atheism child abuse? It's not accusing of it being so. But I have noticed a lot of videos throughout the years where people do titles where they just come right out and say Christianity is child abuse. That was one of Richard Dawkins' big things for a while, and I didn't see a whole lot of people fighting against that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I did recognize it as a question, but I guess if it was a fairer question, I wonder if a better way to phrase that is atheism or Christianity child abuse. It just seems to kind of put one side
Well,
against
you
the
want
other.
you want a straight up answer on that. I think that some Christians do go too far. I think some Muslims go too far, and I think some atheists go too far. That's my view on it. Go ahead, guys.
I think that in the beginning, I think it used to upset me as well. And the more I've been around here and the more I meet all the people, I realize that, yes, while it's inflammatory, it does get a good debate going. I wouldn't suggest that it be done out in public. I don't like it when the news does it or newspapers. But here I don't mind it so much because I know that's kind of our thing that we do. I've accepted it, and I don't know if that's right or wrong. That's me.
So it's kind of a way to lure people into a conversation, you would say?
Yeah, got you in the room, didn't it?
Well, I
it's
just
an
saw
important topic. It's an important subject, don't you think? And who keeps muting Taylor? It keeps on saying, I'm doing it, and I'm not.
That's what I was going to ask you, Brett. I'm like, why do you keep muting her?
It keeps saying, you muted this person, and I am not doing any kind of muting over here. I've got my mic open. I'm sitting here talking. What the heck?
I was going to call you a bully.
No, I got another. I noticed I got another problem. Just real quick, maybe somebody's got a solution to this. But has anybody noticed when you upload videos, your titles disappear, and then it just shows a YouTube link, and you got to save it over and over again?
I haven't noticed that. I don't do the editing for my videos, so.
Oh, well, if you see yourself getting muted and stuff, it's most likely not me doing this. I don't know what's going on with these Google Hangouts.
Sugar does my editing now.
Well, what do you think? Positively Godless, I've listened to your interviews. You're a very respectful guy. I've seen Floyd in debates. He's a very respectful guy. But I do see individuals out there, mostly the gimmick versions of atheists on YouTube, not the serious ones. But they seem to be constantly in aggressive mode. And you know there's young people watching this. How do you feel about it?
Well, like I said, we would. my child's mother and I would never ever say to him, there is no God. I remember him and I driving in the car, and he said, Dad, I don't believe in God. Is that okay? And I didn't answer him with an answer. I answered him, why do you feel that way? And he says, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And I pressed him further, and I said, why? He's like, and then he went on, and I'm not going to bore you with all that. But the thing is that he asked me if it's okay. So I'm not trying to say that I'm the greatest parent in the world, because there's no such thing as the greatest parent in the world. But at least we allowed him to come to the conclusion himself. And after the conversation, he asked me, "Do you believe in God?" And I then, after what he told me, I could say no. And it was a great conversation. So if that answers your question, but I don't know if it does.
If you don't mind me asking, how old is he?
He's now 12. He came to that conclusion right around 9 or 10. It's kind of like the kid who figures out the Santa Claus isn't real. So I think that's what kind of sparked his mind. Like, okay, Santa Claus isn't real because it doesn't make sense. Easter Bunny, and you can name all the little, scenarios. So he kind of came to that on his own.
Positively godless, I have 2 children of my own. I got a boy who just turned 17. I got a daughter. And they have both, of course, asked me different questions and all that. What should I believe? What should I think and all this? And I said, you should try to have the best life you can and do what you feel is right and try to do good unto others. However, I'm not here to tell you how to think. I want you to be able to think for yourself. And that's my views on it.
And I agree with you 100%, and this is recorded, so everyone, I agree with Brett Keane.
That's okay. Here, I'll help you out there. I agree with him as well. We're in so much trouble, Scott.
No, I don't think we are.
No, we're not, because I made my...
No, Brett hasn't gotten as much crap as he used to in the past before I met him. I've noticed that, and which is good.
I agree.
Either people have grown up, or, I don't know, it doesn't matter.
I stood my
People
ground.
are on vacation, that's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
No, I'm good with that. Yeah, I think each child is such an individual. Critical thinking skills are so important, even more important now that our stress levels are so high. It affects our brain chemistry a lot, and the children are having to negotiate a lot of different things that you want them to really think hard. When you take a look at the LGBT community, and what I was there in the very beginning. My parents are huge supporters, and we were always, even though there's nobody gay in our family, but we were always big supporters. And I find some of the second and third wave of them, it's like they've forgotten what was being fought for. And I think that parents need to remember to teach them all children, critical thinking skills, because there are a lot of things that are going to become more commonplace, and if they need to, so you have to have the skills to think about those things.
And that's where it gets dangerous, I think, because my kid lives in a small town in northern Minnesota where it's pretty much your red area, old school and stuff like that. And I remember him getting a lot of flack for when people asked him, do you believe in God, or what church you go to? He's like, I don't go to church, I don't believe in God. And he got hell for it. Mm-hmm. And that's a dangerous place, because then you're talking about, are the kids who are asking him these questions, are they indoctrinated? That goes to that, that flip side of the coin that that Gray was asking about, it's Brett was saying it's one extreme or another.
Yeah,
that's where it gets dangerous for children.
Absolutely, and I live on the other side of the country in a red area, strangely enough, in California, in a town that had 5,000 people and 23 churches, and a huge Christian school where all the other local Christians came in. It was one of the best towns. It is the best town I've ever lived in. But my daughter stood tall. We taught her to stand tall and proud. One second. There was a time when they were doing a campaign for slander and bullying, and somebody put up a poster that said some kind of slurs against homosexuals, and these boys were standing around making a joke, and my daughter walked up and she put her hand right in the middle of it. She goes, "Hey," she goes, "my dad's gay. What do you want to say about it?" I have to tell you, this is a really straight town. And so not only was she like outing her dad, and he wasn't, even gay, but then, she was taking a stand, and that's how we taught her. We told her to stand up for what's right, and we'll always back her on that one. And then we also taught her about bullies and things like that, and people who overcompensate and say nasty things, and
Now, Sugar, I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you. It sounds like the baby's ready to party over there. But did you say your daughter got into the middle of a group and said, "Hey, my father's gay"? I thought I may have heard this. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But did you say
no, you did. You heard me right.
Your husband's not really gay, though?
No, I've had 4 husbands. That was 2 husbands ago. So we won't talk about that. But he wasn't gay at all. She was, because they were mocking the poster about slurs, So she went up there to prove a point. You never know whose parent is gay. So
that was awesome.
Yeah, it really was. I was one of my proudest moments with her.
Kids suck, especially when they like to demonize other people.
Can you do me a favor, Gray? Can you try going out and coming back in? For some reason, it continues to claim that you're being muted over and over, and it's actually stating that I'm doing it. Can you come back? I don't know if there's some kind of glitch.
That I'm muting myself when I'm done talking. Is that what you mean?
It keeps saying that I'm muting you every time you mute yourself. I think there's some kind of glitch.
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.
All right, that's really weird. Okay. Hello, Crystal. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, I gotta take off the stream just for a moment. How you doing there, Crystal?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you guys?
Are you familiar with the topic of what we're getting into right now? We usually talk about a whole lot of stuff, but this was a pretty important subject. Some stuff I've been seeing on video and Facebook's been kind of bothering me a little bit. Probably shouldn't, though. It is the internet, right?
Yeah, that's the internet. You're gonna hear all kind of crazy shit.
We're basically talking about, do parents go too far with their faith with their children, and do atheists go too far with their children as well? I know it's an odd topic, but I do believe that children are the future of our world.
Hey, Brett. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I think I have a change of heart on that feeling about what you just said about it's just the internet, right? And I think it might have been that way at one time, but with social media and everything being what it is, and as many people that are choosing to watch, I think that's changed. I think it's our social responsibility to make sure that what we put out is accurate, and as accurate as possible, and is fair, and not slandering or libel, whichever one.
Goodness gracious, Sugar, you and I are always on the same wave. Is there anything we disagree on at all?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
You were talking about the faith and if indoctrinating children is wrong. I'd say an interesting point to bring up is the Westboro Baptist Church, where they bring their families and their children's children up to hate and demonize anybody who's homosexual and deem them to protest funerals when they're about the age of 5.
Yes, I've always had an issue with Westboro Baptist Church when I was a non-believer and as a God believer, especially even more. I don't think that that's the right way to do things. I definitely think that it not only hurts non-believers and homosexuals, but it also hurts God believers as well, because it's simply not the way to act. There's nowhere in the Bible where it tells us to go stand out at funerals and try to make people who are already in severe pain feel even more miserable. It's ignorant, it's nasty, and I just don't know what else to say about it. I do have to say one thing, because I do have some pals out there who seem to be in the satanic network out there. For some reason, they decided that they wanted to do some kind of public display after Mr. Phelps had passed away. They went to the graveyard and had sex publicly, and it was caught by the media. I don't think that was a good idea either.
Yeah, but it was fun though. I had a good time. I'm kidding.
Oh, geez.
I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez.
That's tacky.
It's kind of funny.
No, I agree that it's very tacky. Hey, Brett, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
How long is Sean G banned for?
Well, I have attempted to talk to him off and on for quite a bit, and he just seems like he wants to aggressively sit there and fight. I like talking to you because you're more open. I feel like we can have an honest discussion, but he just seems like he likes to do pop shots here and there over and over, and I can deal with that a couple times, but when you get on your 10th hangout, it's like, come on.
Okay, I just figured I'd ask. Just figured I'd throw that out there. Sorry.
Is he
Might be
trying to
enough.
get in tonight?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
I don't think he's trying to, but you know, I know he's watching. So I'm like, well, let's have him join in. But it's your room, Brett. I obviously want to respect you and all that stuff. So
Yeah, it's all good. I understand. I understand. There's some religious people out there that I don't even want in my room because I feel like it just goes off the wall. It's just the way I am. I'm trying to keep myself from getting a headache.
no worries, no worries. So apparently I got in some trouble. If I'm not sure if you want to stay on topic, Brett. It's up to you if you want to continue on this.
Well, you know how my rooms are. We'll
Yes.
talk about a subject and then bounce back and forth, hit some other subjects up. It's all good.
All right,
It's open.
just real quick. I want to address something because apparently I got into a little bit of trouble with Nadia, and I don't really,
Uh-oh.
yeah, I haven't really gone into Nadia's rooms much at all. But there was a video that was released about 3 or 4 days ago by a person named Gus. God, Benny, you're making me laugh. I'm not sure if you saw it. Yes, Gus Bellinger.
No, you told me you never hardly make no videos. You kind of just do interviews and all that. I was not aware you posted something.
No, 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 no.
What
I didn't.
happened? I got to hear this. This
Okay.
sounds like this is going to be exciting.
Yeah, okay. No, I did not post, I did not do a video. I commented on a video regarding Nadia and her situation and how she's kind of spending time on Google Hangouts and not, you know, and I watched your video today as well, which you did a few months back. Just like, okay, I need to fix my life. I need to get out there and make myself better. And it was a really, really good video. It was a little vulgar at times, but I just commented standing ovation. So last night, as today, when I asked you the initial question when I first came on, is my internet connection working? Well, that was the only Hangout that was available last night. So I popped in there using a different Wi-Fi setting, and immediately she screen shared my comment, which was simply standing ovation, and my internet cut out. So now I'm being told that because she screen shared that, I'm a coward and I bailed out of the room.
Well, we can clearly see that your video is not looking as clear as usual. There's something wrong with the internet and resolution and all
Well, I
that.
have my bandwidth really low. Let me put it at just at medium and see if that helps. If I'm lagging, let me know. I
That's a
mean,
little better right there, Scott.
Yeah, it's looking good now. So I don't understand. Standing ovation, you have an internet fart, boom, you're gone. So why is there all this atrocity going on?
I have no idea. Can you hear
Uh,
me?
I have a question because I've caught a couple of those Nadia things, and I did see Gus's thing actually, and I am curious as hell why anybody even gives a damn about Nadia, because Nadia doesn't give a damn about herself.
Right, and and Brett made a video, trying to help Nadia at one point. I think it was back in April. In Brett, you would know better than I would. Um,
Well, I've made a few different videos trying to help Nadia out, and I do have my moments where I feel like I've done as much as I can, and then I say I'm going to give up, no more trying, but then I go, damn it, I care too much, I got to do something.
yeah, I mean, in the video that I commented on, it was so spot on because I constantly get invites to her hangouts every 6 to 8 hours, and I'm like, what? Why are you complaining? You're not doing anything but hangouts. I've been there, Brett. You've been there. We've dusted ourselves off and said, okay, I'm better than this. Let's get off our asses and fix it, right?
Yeah, but she does have a lot of good points on why it is that she may have the situation. She has some, I've got my health issues and all that, but she's got some pretty bad stuff happening to her. She doesn't have any family support. She doesn't have a companion. Because of the transgender, she states that it causes her problems on this. So I'm with her on that. My problem is that it seems like she's completely and utterly given up, and I've seen too many people offer over and over for a place to stay, jobs, and all that, and that's where I start to get pissed. You understand what I'm saying, guys?
Absolutely. And with the transgender thing, me living in Minneapolis and I work in Bloomington where the Mall of America is. And I, run over to the mall to the store there, and there's a transgender person working there. There I don't think a lot of people can discriminate legally because she's transgender. That's my opinion. Take it at face value.
Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of transgenders out there that you see in magazines all the time who seem to live very successful life. There's some that are very successful models and all that. But unfortunately, I suppose in the areas she's in, she's treated a little differently. Do I think that some of it's a bit exaggerated and there's that desire to just do Google Hangouts all day instead of actually cleaning up one's life? Good probability, but I'm not Nadia either. See what I
Don't
mean?
you feel like it's enabling all this, her behavior? It feels like everybody's just enabling it and they're not helping. I mean, like, sure, you could help financially and offer emotional support, but at some point, doesn't it just turn into enabling?
I agree with you 100%. And just to be clear, when I go to the gas station, Brett, there's an actual person who works there that's transgender. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Right, right. And I understand that, and in a lot of ways, I most likely have partaken in enabling, and I hope not, but it could most likely be the case. I'm open to that concept. But I also believe that there's people out there who've been through a lot of pain. They're suffering. They don't feel good about themselves or that they have any use anymore. And I feel like sometimes maybe even though we think they might be able to do more than what they actually can, we ought to offer at least some kind of support. Let the person know they're loved. You feel me?
No doubt, no doubt. Let them know they're loved. Offer support. I mean, and nobody in this room, nobody in any Google Hangout in the world can say they don't have a story. Everybody's got a story. I've got a story. And when I tell my story, some people are like, wow, I can't believe you overcame what you did. And I look at them, I'm like, my story isn't any more important or bigger than yours. Everybody has a story of what they had to overcome, big or small. It's all the same. And I'm all for being a life coach and supporting somebody getting through whatever hard time it is. But at what point do people have lines? Because I know I have limits with how far and how much I'll go before I'm just like, this is falling on deaf ears. And it just seems like with this person, Nadia, it's falling on deaf ears. And I just wonder, maybe everybody else has a longer life expectancy with how much they'll put up with.
And just to be clear, I am not talking trash about Nadia at all.
I have a feeling on this whole thing. While I agree with some of the things that have been said, and of course nobody wants to enable anybody. It's not healthy. But at some point, it really is just what you say. She is also responsible for her own life, and if the things that she doesn't bring in the money that that she requires, then that will be on her. I have another feeling is that if people feel that way, if they feel so strongly, then they should do one of two things. One, don't go into her room, which I don't see how that's as beneficial if you would enjoy your time debating in there. And the other thing is, even if you don't like the way she is, if you do go in there on a daily basis, throw the woman a few bucks. I mean, she does give her whole life to this, and I think that positive people around her more giving her positive stuff. I mean, didn't like the idea that this tape came out. I think it would be very hurtful, but if it helps her, then you know, then I say that it's all for the good. And that's that big moral issue, isn't it, that they talk about, you know, if this is moral, is that moral? Because if somebody would have said, should we make a tape like this, I would have said, not me, I'm not going to publicly humiliate somebody. But since what's done is done, if she gets something positive out of it and we all rally around her, those of us who care about the human experience no matter what, then hopefully something good will come out of it. But I think those people that stay in there all day long and don't give any money, even if they don't like her, even if they go in there to, you know, shoot her down, come on. I mean, we know what time it is. We know that certain people like to make money on this whole thing. I'd love to do this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if I could make, you know, but that's not it, you know. But I don't think she needs to be so self-deprecating, because I won't encourage it. I won't respond to it. I will give her positive, but I will not go, oh yeah, that's so hard, because I got this deep voice and I gave birth to children, so you know I'm a girl. I have no sympathy for her when she's, you know, I can get real butch real quick.
You know, one of the things that I find is really sad nowadays, and you're absolutely right about what you're saying there, Sugar, is in the past there were people who were constantly coming in to support, finance, do whatever it took. But nowadays, from time to time, I'll go over there, see what's going on and everything, but I won't actually go in the room anymore because it's too much to handle sometimes. You know, a lot of people, they look at me and say, this guy's a tiger. Well, I'm a marshmallow on the inside, believe it or not. That's my secret. I won't tell anybody else. But what happens is I notice that most of the people that hang with her now are just simply there to use her room to abuse each other. And they don't even care if Nadia wants to talk. They don't even care if she's got an opinion. They cut right over her like she's not even there. And I just think, ugh, this is ridiculous. Is this really what she wanted for herself?
Yeah, and I think you said that in the video that I watched of yours today, where we saw your beautiful face, Brett. um,
Oh,
yeah. So no, I think you said that in the video I watched today. And you're right on. Because I listen to, I mean, I listen to certain hangouts when I'm at work. 'Cause, I mean, I do accounting, so what do I gotta do? I have headphones on. Might as well just listen to people fight, and that's what they do. I mean, Drag was in a fight today with I can't remember who it was in her room, and Shamos, you know. But I kept thinking as I'm working, going, so people go into these hangouts just to fight. I don't. That's what I don't understand. I mean, I'll stand up for myself. I'm actually arguing with this guy named Zeus right now, but he won't come into a hangout. Like, let's address the issue, the naughty issue. Make sense?
I'm listening to you. Is this, I mean, the name kind of throws you off, right, Zeus, but is this guy calling himself a god believer?
He did not state that. He's basically said that when Nadia screen shared my comment of a standing ovation, that I bailed out. Again, when I got into this room, I stated there have been internet issues, and so I stand by what I said. So, yeah.
Well, whether your internet went out or you made a choice that you just simply didn't want to be involved with nonsense, that's your choice. It's on the internet. The only time I'll get onto somebody for doing a crap where if they instigate and start trouble, and then when it's time to put on the gloves and go to work in the ring with the person you started trouble with, I expect some results. That's when I have a problem. But if you're a nice guy and you're just like, look, I don't want shit, I don't want trouble, and you leave, hey, I understand.
Sean says my audio level is a little low, so I'm just increasing it. Is that better?
You're coming through good. You're clear.
Okay. He's watching from afar because he's got a secret crush on me.
Well, perhaps you and Sean and Zeus can open up a room sometime and talk out the differences.
Are you still abusing abusing Gray now, or is that over with? No, I think
it looks like it's fixed on Gray's side. That's wonderful. I was starting to wonder. I don't remember my finger doing that. Why am I seeing somebody's toes up on the screen like that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, what else is subjects and topics you guys want to get into? Anything you like?
Do you guys ever talk about what's going on in the news and in the media? Like, I was just watching a video on Kim Davis,
Oh yeah, we're talking
the
about
county
that
clerk
tonight on
out
our
of
show,
Kentucky. Yeah. Anybody have an opinion on that?
Yeah,
What
I
was
actually
this?
posted an 8-minute video talking about that exact subject on my channel.
I watched that as well, and I want to say hello to Christian Anarchist, by the way.
Oh,
He had my back, and I appreciate that. Thank you, my friend.
when?
What
Wait,
do you
what?
think about
What?
it positively? You watch the video. Sometimes better to hear another person's point of view on it.
I think I think you were spot on. I mean, everyone has an opinion, and yeah, I mean, I liked it. I mean, again, I try to when I listen to videos or watch videos at work, I try to listen as much intent as I can, but I have to process credit and debit memos too. So, um, sometimes it's a little tough. But I mean, I thought it was a great video.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Don't hear that very often these days.
Christian Anarchist, did you have a question?
Well, I was just, I didn't know what we were talking about. So that's what I was asking. What
Oh,
is
you
this?
have my back I think regarding G-Man, right?
Right, I mean, I remember that, but my question was what y'all are talking about. I'm lost.
We're
Oh.
talking about the Ken Davis issue. Basically, in a nutshell, this is a woman that decided to use her clerking job to state that even though a couple was told they could get married and all that, obviously it's the law nowadays, this clerk decided that she wanted to hold her religious belief over this couple's ability to be able to get married. And
Right.
she stated, wait a minute, I held an oath and I swore upon the law. Well, laws change. When you swear on the law, that doesn't mean that it's just the laws that are sitting there at the moment.
Right. But the other thing, I actually work at local news, and this is a story that we've been covering whenever we go to national part of the news. And the things that always get repeated whenever we cover it is that apparently the story that we're getting is that she's not only just refusing the gay couple's marriage licenses, she's also refusing any marriage license whatsoever from what we're getting. Like this person.
Then she's clearly not doing her job.
Yeah, I heard that as well. And, she's just holding everybody hostage, and she obviously doesn't understand her constitution, the separation of church and state, and somebody ought to fire her and get on with it. Because as long as we let separatism be a thing, it will be a thing. When we stop letting it be a thing and we shut it down, it'll stop being a thing.
Like, and the other thing, she's like a different type of Christian. Like, it's one of those rare, crazy kinds that's, you rarely hear about. That's apostolic, I believe, with the denomination she's in. And I think that's a branch of Pentecostalism, and I always don't like the Pentecostals due to the fact that a majority of them reject the doctrine of the Trinity in the first place.
There's one other thing, too, that exploded all over the place about this particular situation. The problem is you start messing with people and their lives and their family and their desires to get married and love, then you should suspect people are going to look into you as well. And that's exactly what they did, and they found out that she's been through a couple different marriages. She's been through divorces. And according to the Bible, divorces are not highly suggested or recommended biblically. When you marry, you're supposed to stick with your partner under certain circumstances. So it kind of gave off that hypocrisy.
Well, yeah, it did.
Yeah, I mean, to me, getting a divorce and getting remarried is a very serious violation, since Jesus says this is based practically adultery. So, I mean, I don't hold that against people that get it, and I'm not going to tell other people, through law anyways, not to get it. But I would recommend and try to advise people to make sure to get the marriage to work out and all that kind of stuff, because that's how we're going to have healthier marriages, if we can find ways to improve the couple and not just focus on what the certain individual needs. Like, the individuals grow up, The male's like, this woman looks too old, I'm going to go divorce you and find a girl that looks younger and hotter. We don't need to focus on selfishness and all that. They need to work it out because they made a commitment in the first place, and they need to stick to that till the end.
You guys do me a favor, I'll be right back in a minute. I have been for the longest time broadcasting all the streams, but yesterday when I tried opening, I had someone pull out some breast on the screen. So you guys are modding. Please make sure that you think about it before you broadcast someone, all right? I'll be right back.
Got it.
Very well said, Anarchist. Very well said.
Who is taking my job? I am the only one allowed to bring breasts out. I will have them. I will have them.
No, I'm good. I'll pass.
Yeah, exactly. I would pass too. You know, I'm just kidding.
All right.
So yeah, positively, I made a thing for G-Man today.
Yeah, I saw that.
What? You follow me?
I'm sorry.
You following me?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
No, I think I saw the beginning of it, but then
I got caught up in other things.
Good evening, all. Can I ask what the topic is, please?
in a minute. So. Okay, so yeah, I didn't get a chance to view the whole thing yet, but I did see the comments, so I gotta watch it again. I got caught up in other things at work, so sorry about that.
Yeah, it was just a thing where I was doing a hangout where it was apologia versus atheism, where it was me and a couple Christians answering the skeptical questions that an atheist has. And G-Man kept posting in the entire thing, and in one of the threads, he said there's zero scripture for theistic evolution, which happened to have just been a personal religious belief of mine. So then I say, all right, do you believe we have the libertarian form of free will? He says, yes. I'm like, there is zero scripture supporting that. Show me in the Bible where it supports it. He wouldn't give it a response. So I just show him in the thing where several points in the scriptures it shows that there are things we can't do. There are limits to our will, and even things that Christians do, like choosing Christ, that wasn't us.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm paranoid. All right. Sorry about that, David. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. We're kind of we're a mixed bag, I guess, at this point. You there, David?
I guess not. Brandon Bellinger.
Do you know this guy?
Don't know. Sounds like Gus.
He's not related with Gus. I've been in a hangout with Brett's hangout with him in it before.
Is he cool?
Oh.
As far as I know, he was perfectly well behaved last time.
Oh, let's see. Hi, Brandon. Hello, Brandon.
Hello.
Okay, well, thank you for stopping in. David, if you want to unmute your mic and ask your question, you're more than welcome to do so. Gosh, I'm starting to sound like Brett now. If I start saying "How you doing, Mang," I'm going to kill myself.
What? What?
That's what Brett says.
No, don't do that, because you're either one or two things. You're either going to hell or it's all over. So.
Or both.
You never know. Might not be too late.
I do have to feed my dogs, so you all are mods, so please keep the zoo. Oh gosh, I gotta stop. I'll be back.
Alright.
So, gentlemen, the new people, do you guys want to unmute and ask us a question if you need to until Brett gets back? He should be back shortly. You can just wait if you want.
Yeah, hi.
Hello.
Hi,
No,
Brett.
I don't.
Sorry.
No. Yeah, no, I don't have any questions. I've just been listening. And I agree with most of what had been said about the topic of the conversation before, which was the is atheism child abuse?
Sorry, I want to unmute. Maybe somebody else could answer if he has another question. Christian Anna, Chris, if you could help. 'Cause I'm sorry, I just don't want the baby to yell.
Sure, will do. What were you saying, Adam?
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying that I was just listening. I don't really have much to say on the topic, to be honest.
Alright.
So, yeah.
Anybody else? Preferably David.
What am I missing here?
Crack cocaine.
I've never done a drug in my life, so I'm happy
Mm.
about that.
All right, good. Stay off that. Stay off the drugs.
I could hear some of the conversation as I went out of the room because, as you know, I got my computer plugged into a 400-watt stereo system, pure power. Ho, ho, ho. But I was curious. Was it Adam? You said that you didn't really have much to talk about. Maybe I could help you.
No, well, I think a lot has already been covered. That's all.
Oh, well, Adam, if you don't mind, what is your theological position and political position? I like to get everybody in the conversation.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist myself. My mother, she's also an atheist. My grandmother, she's not. When I was growing up, as a child, I believed in God because, I mean, my grandmother did, and also when we went to school, the teachers read from the Bible at assemblies. Obviously, when people in authority, they're reading the Bible and telling you about God and stuff, you're gonna believe them because they're higher than you. They're adults. But yeah, no. When I got older, I just stopped believing in God.
Well, I got a weird question for you, man. Do you believe in the possibility that there might be a God?
I mean, obviously, there's a possibility that there could be, but I don't. Obviously, if I don't believe there is, I don't really want to. I mean, it's not that I don't want to follow a religion or anything like that. It's just that if I don't believe, or if I can't be sure, then there's nothing to. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah.
Well, you don't sound very atheistic, if you don't mind me saying. The definition of atheist is one who lacks a belief in God. You're stating that you're open to the possibilities. It sounds to me like you're a truth seeker here.
Well, no, I don't, honestly, I don't believe there's a God.
Well,
But
yeah,
I mean,
that's
any of us could be wrong. I mean, you would obviously say there is a God, but I mean, you could be wrong. I could be wrong. I mean, who knows?
I say based upon my faith. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I say that based upon faith, but I don't assert that I have full knowledge of this. Go ahead, Mr. Anarchist. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, I think because even agnostics itself is an atheist term. The only difference is how they approach it, because there's all kinds of varying degrees of atheism, and I believe William Lane Craig touched on this whenever he debated Christopher Hitchens, that there's the atheism, then there's the militant or anti form of theism, and then you have the agnosticism approach. So they're all in the spectrum of atheism. It's just the manner of approach to it. I believe, so if I'm correct in what Adam's position is, he doesn't believe there's a God based on the evidence he's been given, but he's open to the possibility of being proven that there might be a God. Am I correct so far in what your position is?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't believe there is a God, but I mean, I guess when I die, I'll find out, won't I?
Right.
I hear you there.
Wouldn't any atheist say that though? Wouldn't any atheist say, as if we saw it, that there's no reason to debate or argue anymore?
I've met some atheists who stated that even if they seen God, they would deliberately and aggressively try to kick him between the legs. So I think that some people may go to the extreme, but I do appreciate the honesty when someone says, you know what, if I see him, then that's going to be enough for me. You know, I've noticed, one last thing. I've noticed that atheists seem to be more, how shall I say, honest than agnostics. Agnosticism, by the definition that I've seen of recent, is one who believes it is impossible to know either way. The atheist at least leaves it open, says, look, it's possible. If there's some kind of evidence and it's out there for me to see, then I'll accept it. At least that's honest. Go ahead.
All right, well, I just wanted to just kind of chime in on this because it's a really good topic, actually. And yes, you're right. You know, a lot of non-believers say that if I would need to see God to believe, but no one knows what God looks like. So if some thing
Right.
came and says I'm God, I mean, is that still enough?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. God, it isn't bound to a physical form, except the only time that there was a physical thing was when there was the second member of the Trinity, which was the Son, Jesus Christ. But as far as we know of concerning the Father and the Holy Spirit, those don't really have themselves a physical form in itself. They just are spirit entities with different duties to perform whenever they're doing their task.
I'm pretty confident that if God came and knowing that he's omnipotent and omniscient, he would know what's going on. He'd know that what we have going on with people who hallucinate, and he would make himself very clear to the person and prove without a shadow of a doubt. See, this is where I think people forget that. I think people put these human emotions on God that of course he's going to make it. He would have to make it clear to you. Otherwise, it wouldn't be God, right?
Right.
Otherwise you'd be hallucinating. So at least for this atheist, yes, if he came down and talked to me, I would believe that it was him.
Right.
I'll be right back. I got to take the dogs out to potty.
All right.
I feel like that's a fair answer, Sugar and Gray. Go ahead.
But yeah, I think that because there are some people that will get some crazy ideas from the Bible, and then they'll get some people that they claim that Jesus or God came to them in a dream and said that they needed to kill their 1-year-old son because that son would grow up to be the Antichrist, and one person actually cooked her baby in an oven and the other one bashed the baby's head in with a rock, and it's because they had some dream that they said God came to them and told them to do it.
Right.
And
that's tragic.
And I think the result of it was just like, some kind of stress that would create some kind of thing they would want in their dream. So that kind of thing usually does happen. This is how I sometimes get in my dreams. It's after I usually watch something, the dream starts getting related to it, or it's when I start stressing about certain things. Those stresses come into the forms of nightmares. It all depends on experience that one takes. And me being a cessationist, I believe that things such as spiritual gifts involving speaking in tongues, special unique prophesizing, I think all that stuff is done with and has stopped being in effect ever since the apostles died, because I believe that was only left for them to keep a strong foundation for the early church. But
yeah,
then there's the thing with exegesis, which is doing a accurate and biblical reading and interpretation of the text, that you're using all kinds of sources and making sure that you got using the right form of textual criticism to make sure you get what the writers intended, especially with it being divine holy scripture. That's one of the reasons why we have to use proper exegesis, so we can treat it as much respect as we can.
I think that anytime you can get things accurate and less woo-woo, as they say, it's always probably best. That's one of my issues with Christianity, not Christians, but Christianity, is that for me, it's a God that is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipotent. I call it the 3 O's. We should have no idea how powerful this God is, and And what I read in the Bible goes directly against that kind of stuff. From the very question of why would somebody so perfect need us in the first place? Giving the answer to that, okay, I'm okay with He wanted us. I don't like it, but I can accept that. And then there's the questions of, well, if He knew what we were going to do before we did it and loved us anyways, He would have forecasted this. He would have made sure that we all knew, and that He would have known that there would have been misinterpretations. I mean, it just goes on and on and on for me. So, I mean, I think that is one of the dangers. But I mean, so I think that anytime you can get as much, those, like you were saying, the Pentecostals and their altar calls and all the craziness, anytime you can get that out of it. The rest of the world doesn't do this, though, I mean, I think as Americans we forget that the rest of the world is not as fanatical as we are. We have the biggest fundies, we have the conspiracy theorists, we have everything over the top, and we think we're it. We're the 22nd country to legalize marriage equality. 22nd.
Right.
This woman
Right.
in Kentucky or wherever is acting like we were the first ones. Like
Right.
the first time we'd ever seen a gay person before. That's a problem. When we're so over the top like that, there's a problem. We're way out of range.
Hey, Sugar, you mind if I ask you a question? Because you were talking about some things before this that I agree with what you're saying on all this, but the first couple things you threw out the question of why would God create us in the first place? It's obvious that you're a mother, and obvious that you have some form of foreknowledge. You knew before bringing children into the world that there was going to be happy experiences, there was going to be joy, but you had to have known there would be heartbreak, that there would be pain, that the most extreme horrors and evil could possibly happen to that which you bring into the world. But you did it anyway. Why?
Well, I'm not God now, am I?
No,
So-
but you did have foreknowledge. Beforehand, you knew this was the world you were bringing children in. Do you follow?
I do, but I'm not a God, so it doesn't, the two don't equate to me. Because a God would have known that this would be the outcome. The God would have known how many people would have died in His name, right? How many, and all the things that He did. A God would have known that people would be hated. So that's my feeling on that one. And I know what you're saying, because I've used that same argument. I've said, I create life within me, and I'm the one who, if I treated my children like the way He treated Adam and Eve, He set them up, clearly set them up. And, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to my child. If my child needed help, I'd guide them along the way. I wouldn't say, I'm going to punish this child when they get done. Watch what they're going to do. It's going to be hysterical.
Have you ever, I've heard you bring that up and such, but what exactly, have you ever really thought about what the consequences and punishment were? Basically, Adam is being put to labor. Mankind is told, all right, you're out of this garden, but you have an entire world before you.
Mm-hmm.
Like they gained a great deal, even though they did what they did. Go ahead.
And I just want to say goodbye. I got to go. Have a good rest of the night.
See you later, Positively. Always a pleasure to have you, and I hope that you continue to come in when you have time.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, Scott.
Bye.
Yeah, I don't think in the scheme of things, just because of the amount of people in this world that have been either killed in the name of religion. I don't like the fact that religion starts you off being less than, that you're not good enough, and that whole thing has. I understand how it was presented in the Bible, and I don't like the whole dirty rags thing. I think you could have spun it a lot better. I mean, if it should have been spun better. So I think about all the children who think that they're horrible, or adults that think that they're horrible, all the people with sexual dysfunction because they think that their natural ability to be sexual is somehow dirty or nasty. So I got a problem with it. I got a real problem with it. Anything that promotes hate or separatism, I'm not having it anymore. I'm going to make sure that I stand up and I say it over and over and over again.
Well, don't you think that maybe some of the ideas of talking about these different things and trying to have some kind of structure would have actually helped? I mean, what if men and women actually took the time to get to know each other, not jump into relationships or marriages quickly, that they actually thought about it and how much they wanted to commit themselves as opposed to, oh, she's attractive or he's got money or whatever the materialistic thing, or how convenient it would be for life as opposed to love? Things would be a lot better, I think, if some people actually followed it as it is. Go ahead.
I agree. I agree. And what I'm advocating is not wild abandon or hedonism at all. What I think is that I freaked out Sean G with this when I told him how I taught my older teenage children, because I say children and people think I'm teaching this to a 2-year-old. I taught them about sex and a little bit graphic and really honest, and I also told them, look, I don't want you doing it now, but the fact is that sometimes you do, and I can't stop you, and the thing is, I don't want you feeling shame. I want you to, to own that. You're not doing anything wrong, and you should have, I think that's important. So yes, of course I think that people should do that. No, we shouldn't jump into bed together. Yes, we should get to know each other so we can have long, loving relationships, because not everybody is right for each other. We also have to teach our children that sometimes you just want to get laid, and that you have to be honest enough to tell somebody, I'm looking for a sexual experience, glove up, and let's enjoy each other. And then it doesn't have to be anything else. But when you don't tell somebody that, then somebody's feelings gets hurt, or their emotions get hurt big time. And so that's, I think, honesty.
You do agree that with the way humans are, no matter what position or view you come from, even if you are honest like what you say, which I can appreciate and respect honesty, you tell someone, look, I want to be with you, I want to have this bond for a moment. Sometimes even though a person may say at the moment, okay, I can handle that, we'll just be friends and do this, not everybody can handle that. That can still break an individual's heart. Depends on the person, of course.
Yeah, but that's on them. If you've been honest with them, if you've said it right out, if you're hanging out with somebody and you're like, I wouldn't mind having a go with them. If you say to them, look, I'm really interested in this. Are you sure? I mean, we have to be responsible, and you never know who wants the same thing you want. You never know who will never consider that. I think it would be more popular than people think. And I think it's fair to at least ask for what you want. People should be allowed to have what they want and not trick somebody else. Pregnancies happen that way, hurt feelings, and it's not just men. Men get their feelings hurt too, and, women want unattached sex as well. And I think it's hard for us to even wrap our minds around, because that's not our norm to do that, to ask for such things, because then you're a tramp or, whatever.
I do find that kind of odd, the way women are treated over men in that particular situation. A man does many, he's a conqueror. A woman does it, all of a sudden she's a tramp. I do find that a bit unfair and unbalanced. Hey, how you doing there, Pierce? Glad to see you. Jonathan, do you have a mic? Gus, do you have a mic? Would you like to participate in the conversation?
What's going on, man?
Jonathan says he doesn't want to participate in the conversation, so he's holding up a spot for somebody who might actually want to talk. So see you later, John. Have a good one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Now I was just saying what's up to the room. And as a general rule of thumb, I've just always just never engaged or attempted to engage in unattached sex. It's just because, that's like one of those things, like, there's certain things that I'm just not going to do because I don't know if I'm mentally ready. Like, would I really be okay with waking up the next morning and this person, like, vagina and all just disappeared as if they were never there? Like, could I handle that? And I think that some people, like, sometimes you got to think, can I handle that?
I think that's wonderful that you feel that way. Really wonderful that you feel that way. And you should feel... I didn't expect people to say that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm weird that way. I don't know. Like, I don't know, dude. My penis and heart are like tethered together by a scarlet thread, and I wouldn't want to try and detach them because that's just weird. It's just how I was raised. Maybe it's a little holdover from religion, but it works for me. I don't know.
It should be. You know, even our forefathers, that most that were deists and they thought some were atheists, even they thought that religion should be in our country, that it gave us some kind of moral foundation. And I don't, you know, it would be for me, but I wouldn't have a problem with that, and especially if that's what it creates, a man who, you know, is attached to his penis like that in his heart, then great. I mean, I think I'm not advocating being promiscuous. I'm just saying some people are, a lot of people are, and that we should acknowledge that so people can have what they want and less people get hurt. But I'm very much one person.
May I ask you all a question, and I don't mean to put any of you on the spot. Sometimes I don't mind, but this time I do for some reason. Have you ever known anyone in your life that has been just outright promiscuous and still is today, and they're somehow happy from this? I mean, I'm serious. That's a tough one, isn't it?
I think the silence answers that.
Well, they've been in a very promiscuous relationship or something. The marriage is still lasted or something.
No, I've known plenty of people who, you know, who have had multiple sexual partners and who are perfectly happy.
Yeah.
I'm talking about individuals who they're not into the relationships. They just want sex and they want to go throughout their life like this. I'm asking, do you actually know one single person out there that you've talked to that says, oh yeah, this is great. I'm going in and out of people's lives and everything, and hell, never even see some of these people again. I don't even remember their names. Does that really make someone happy, and how does it make them happy?
Well, there are some people that do get happy from it, but then there comes into the part of depression whenever they get involved in something that they shouldn't. Like, I've known a couple people that get involved in it. Sometimes they get with someone that's like one of them drinker type people, or even uses them themselves. So sometimes there'll be a broken finger that comes out from this, abuse, or all kinds of terrible things. Some people are lucky and they can slip by doing this kind of promiscuous lifestyle without getting injured, but there are some that I've seen that it never turns out well for them.
Well, but I think that's because they're, again, the premise that I said was people saying, this is what I want. I mean, right. I have had people sleep with me one time and then not come back. My heart was there, theirs wasn't. Had they just said, hey, I'm just interested in something sexual, I would have said, no, that's okay. That's not what I'm about. So yeah, of course you're going to find people in this modern, I mean, up till now, because I know now that I've said it, everybody's going to want to do it. Everybody's going to want to be honest, right? But, when two people in agreement decide that they want to have sex together and that they acknowledge, if someone comes up with feelings, let me know, whatever. It's about honesty, and these bad things happen when people aren't honest.
I think that's
Hey, Tommy, how you doing? I seen some kind of a sad irony, tragedy thing happen a while back. I actually had a buddy who seemed like he was doing pretty good with his promiscuous relationships over and over. But there was a time as he got older where he said, you know what, I'd like to settle down. I'd like to have that relationship. And he found him a young woman that he thought was everything that he could possibly want. And after they got hooked up for a little while, she said, I'm sorry, I'm just not interested in relationships, and went on her way. So he got kind of, how do you say, do unto others you want done unto you.
Karma kind of thing.
I think another thing about it, though, is that humans are just so complex. Like, what Sugar's saying is a general rule of thumb, and it absolves you of a certain amount of guilt if you're honest with people, of course. But at the end of the day, like, I've known people, especially when we're talking about, like, when we're young, especially, that they consent, that this is just a one-time thing, and then it turns out that, like, that actually did affect them, These things happen. Humans are very fickle creatures, which is why I'm like, even if I did say yes in the moment, do I want to, like, look up and be like, you know what, she was actually really kind of awesome. Did I just ruin something? Could we have gotten closer? Like, you know, just thinking about what could and what could have been and shit like that.
And that's because nobody taught you that. Because this is the other thing, is we need to teach our children these things too. If you're going to solicit somebody for just an emotional, I mean, just for a purely sexual experience, or if somebody solicits you for it, and you solicit only, I should say ask. If somebody asks you for just a purely sexual experience, then you need to be responsible for that. But we don't teach our children these things. Right? We don't teach them that, look, if you say yes to that person, you need to really be sure, you need to really examine yourself and know that it may affect you. And that if it does affect you, that you've taken responsibility for that. You're the one who said, yes, I understand what's going on, and I'm responsible for that. So that you teach those things. You don't just say, hey, by the way, you can have sex and not care about it as long as you wear a rubber, right? That's not as far as it goes. When you teach your children about sex, you have to teach them about all the aspects of it. You teach them about how you can feel bad about this. You have to teach them about sex as a weapon. You have to teach them about, you know, who has an orgasm, who doesn't, what happens if you don't. We have to teach them these things, because otherwise you spend 4 marriages trying to figure it out, right? That's not good.
I got a question for you, Sugar. And Sugar, I got to say, I do dig your kind of thinking 3 steps ahead on everything. I think that's a rational way to go. But I have to ask you, it's very clear that you want to be able to educate and teach children right, which is honorable. Is it okay for us to tell children, though, look, it's okay to be promiscuous. Go out there and have sex with whoever you want. Should we really do that? I mean, let's be straight.
I wouldn't use those. See, I wouldn't use those words, though. I would tell them, well, first of all, if you have a religious doctrine, you have your religious doctrine to teach. Like for the Christians, they would say, you know, that you don't want to have sex outside of marriage, and that they're about the marital bed. And frankly, y'all got to, you know, I know, St. Tommy, you got to talk about the marital bed and what that includes. That doesn't mean you can bring another woman in and make it a threesome in your marital bed. It's not, you know, it wouldn't be sanctified. But you would not advocate promiscuity. You would only present it as it's what some people do. If nothing else, to prepare your son or daughter or somebody who might approach them with that question. So I'm not advocating that we all just go out and get it on with whoever we want. You know, I think I've done it twice in my life like that, in between divorces, when I was like, that's it, no commitment. It didn't last. It was so empty. I get that. But, you know, that is the one thing that I did. I said, you know what, this is not a whole lot of anything other than what it is. And I'm not ashamed of it at all. I was honest, though. You know, and I think that's important. So I'm not advocating teaching promiscuity. That's what the atheist, you know, you want to pin that on the atheist.
Yeah, we're definitely going to blame the atheist for everything. That's the way it works.
Oh, yes.
But, guys, can you do me a favor? I'll be right back in a minute. I've modded several of you, so can you keep the zoo clean? Thank you. Be right back.
I've found few things more addictive than sexual interaction, or more habit forming. And the habit forming nature of it is emotional. It's not just a good physical zinger. You know, it's really pleasant and really meaningful to be cared about very intricately. Whew. Yeah. Anyway, it seems good to be really selective about that delicate process for me, because I've had my heart broken, whatever that is, a couple of times, and it's very traumatizing. I found myself either getting leathered up or getting heartbroken as a result of being over frisky and overindulgent in such a delicate interaction.
Sure, and I think.
Yeah. It sounds like it's really good to promote to my young ones to be very selective about such a delicate interaction, and that one's parts are connected to one's heart, whatever the heart is. It is connected, and it is very delicate, and somebody can end up in tears real fast, blithering on the floor, not knowing what to do and feeling like shit. It's a delicate process.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. And I just make one thing very clear. If we were to teach our children to be more self-sufficient, to be more of a whole person, so they wouldn't engage in sex with somebody that they didn't want to, or that they were just doing it for attention. You know, there's a lot that goes along with that. When you're teaching your children about sex, it's not just the act, bing, bang, boom. It's a lot of those things. And again, I'm not advocating promiscuity, but we all have to take a look at times when we have been, as we're learning to be sexual and those types of things. If we can prepare our children better, and I say child, our young adults, we can prepare our young adults better. And if two people are honest together, they can work these things out. You're not going to have as much hurt when people aren't having sex because they're suffering and lonely. You see what I'm saying? You know, so I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. I don't advocate wild abandon promiscuity. I think we should always pick our partners very carefully because feelings do get hurt. But I also think we really need to prepare.
Premarital hand-holding and premarital oral sex, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. No, nobody cares. Nobody cares what I'm
that's how STDs get
or
started.
against. But
he's right.
I'm just trying to be funny.
He's just being funny.
Don't we just in regards to children, are like our number one voice to them should be the dangers of getting involved, sexually active at their age, because they have so much on the line. Beyond emotional. I mean, it can stop their world dead in their tracks, and they could be faced with maybe having to raise a child as a child, or faced with a possible abortion because they are not emotionally or mentally even ready to care for a child. I think for me, I mean, we have 2 teenagers and 2 little ones, so for the teenagers right now, it's a bit of a fear message. Like the possibility of you getting pregnant could happen, and it could happen so easily, and it only takes once, and when it does, and if it does happen, it'll forever change your life. Whatever the outcome is, whether you have that child or you have an abortion, that is a decision either way that will affect you for life. And so to avoid having to face that decision as a child, I'm thinking the best thing to teach is just don't roll the dice, don't gamble with your life as a teenager.
Let's take a look at reality, though. How many parents are like me? A few, right? How many parents are like this? Tons. It doesn't work because people do what they do. I agree with you.
No, they totally will. They're totally going to do it regardless. But,
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Why not prepare them?
Message.
What?
I still think you have a responsibility as a parent to tell them that same message. And if they do that on their own accord, then that's a decision they have to live with. But you can look back knowing that you were trying to teach the right thing.
So are you suggesting that they should not be prepared in the event that they do? I mean, is it not okay to teach this is what happens, these sexual things, but yet you should not be doing it now. It's not a good thing to do now. I mean, I can't tell you how many children have been born out of wedlock. I mean, the number has got to be staggering.
Oh yeah, I'm not even referring to wedlock. I'm not sitting at home preaching, wait till you get married. I'm saying while you're in damn high school.
Yeah.
No, don't have sex. Don't think about it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Come on, Gray. Don't think about it. Don't do it.
Okay.
Well, don't embrace
as much
it.
as you like.
Maybe what you're saying is don't embrace it.
Yes, don't embrace it. Give them a reason. I agree.
Yes.
I agree. We choose to wait. My theory is that it goes like this. If you're religious, we choose to wait because of our doctrine. We believe in our religion and God. This is what He wants. If you're secular, you would say, look, you're going to have these feelings. You're going to feel sexual. You're going to feel attraction, and you've got self-gratification, right, to ward that off. But as a society, we have decided that we want these types of things, and if you get pregnant early, You don't get those things. So absolutely there's a conversation that goes along with that, and nor would I ever advocate that, yeah, go ahead and do it. Although I allowed certain freedoms in my house, that is alone for my house. If I were to teach this theory, I would not teach that. I wouldn't teach, oh yes, let your child have sex, in their own bedroom.
I don't know.
Welcome to the room, Crystal, as well as Christian Hillbilly. Remember, folks, when new people come in, or people that we know come in, let's try to say hello. How you doing? And by the way, we're talking about promiscuous sex.
Hey, my brother, Christian Hillbilly.
Diddly ho, everybody. How we doing on this fine and lovely day that the Lord has made? Let us rejoice.
You can call me heathen if you want to. All right. It's okay. You can call me heathen. It's all right.
Am I going to have to pull out Elton John, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Come on, folks. Come on. So what you been up to, Hillbilly? You been keeping it real?
All been doing my best. Been driving the old school bus. I picked me up 2 new kids. Their moms dying of cancer, so instead of them being troubled kids, they don't have anybody else to take care of them, so they're going into the foster care system. And they're some of the cutest little kids, 4th and 5th graders, and I've just been having a blast with them. I tell you what, it's been a lot of fun.
Man, that's rough. That's rough about what they're
It
going.
really is, and they're taking it really well. I mean, I don't want to prod and ask them something that's going to hurt them, so I let them kind of come out and tell me what's going on, and then I'll ask a general question here or there. Boy, I tell you what, I had the whole elementary school watching me the other day, day before yesterday. I pulled up with them, and they've been so good all week long. The one kid just kept trying to build a paper airplane, and I said, look, Montreal, I will build you a paper airplane that'll fly like a jet fighter. How's that? I said, you all keep being good, and I'll do that for you. They said, okay. I said, now I'm going to give you the plane when you get on the bus. Now here's the real test. You can't fly the plane until we get off the bus. Oh, man, you could tell they was chomping at the bit to try and fly that plane. I pull up in front of the school. I turn on my flashers. I get the boys off, and we're right in this big patch of grass. It happens to be right in front of the principal's office, and I'm teaching them how to fly a paper airplane.
There you go. I remember whenever I was younger, it wasn't just the airplanes. They used to make paper Chinese stars. You guys see those before?
Yeah.
Yes, I was the paper ninja. Ooh.
Was that some sort of analogy for teenage sex? I'm not sure how that relates to what we were just talking about. Did I miss something?
Well, Hillbilly and I, we've been friends for many, many years and stuff, and he tends to come in and share with me about different issues, and he knows my room's open to all different subjects and topics, so you have to forgive him.
No,
yeah, this is where I get badly behaved.
I guess I didn't realize how ADD the room would be. My bad.
Well, that's just one of the
It's a Brett Keane room. What did you suspect?
There you go. Well,
yeah, thanks for howling, Hillbilly. I finally got the baby to sleep. Now she's awake again.
Oh, good. Now you got something to do.
I have been. I've been.
No, but that's just one of those things that when you see something that everybody else looks, people look at me and they think I'm crazy because of the way I interact with the kids, and I don't give a crap. I'm not going to be a guard. I'm going to be there, try and be there for them and talk to them and help them through their time of trial. And if it means jumping off the bus and flying paper airplanes, well, so be it. I got too many bus drivers mad at me because I flew paper airplanes with 2 kids. Big deal.
Well, Hillbilly, if you don't mind, I can give you a rundown on some of the different subjects we've been talking about, and I guarantee you'll find them fascinating and probably have your own opinion on them. Some of the subjects are like the title of the room: Is atheism child abuse? Can it cause children problems based upon the downward philosophy? We're also talking about promiscuous sex. Should we teach our children that it's okay to go out and basically lay with anyone you like? And be okay with that. That's some of our topics.
Well, actually, they walk hand in hand with one another. I mean, if you're going to be an atheist, and you're going to teach your kid there is no God and know how to know God, create none of this, and we're not accountable to know God, then what difference does it make what you do and who you do it with or how many times you do it? Heck, kids nowadays in high school, they have sex like you're shaking hands. I mean, it's so sad.
Well, that's really funny because the only atheist in the room is saying we should not have sex before we graduate. When you have a mindset of, like nobody's brain really develops until they're about 24 years old. So really, do you want to make a decision to have a child when you're that young? I mean, making decisions to have sex with whoever just because it feels good? We don't teach our kids that it feels good, do it, because that has consequences that they don't understand yet.
Yeah, Crystal, it took me until 30 to fully develop brain-wise and everything, and I guess I'm a slow evolver.
Me too.
You're a man.
Well, you know, when it comes right down to it, it's not a time in life. It's not when you graduate. It's not that first year of college. It's not, you know, after you get out of college. It's when you find that person that you want to commit your life to and enter into the covenant of marriage.
I disagree.
Not a contract, but the covenant of marriage, until death do us part.
Well, can we all agree that as a teenager we thought we were madly in love with someone, but really it was just a fling because we don't really know what love is at that point?
Right. The heart deceives. The heart deceives. No one can understand it. So the heart
We
can
don't
tell
know
you
what
something
love
that's
is
not true.
because we're not taught what love is. Do you know, until recently,
I'll agree with you on that.
church, and especially in the younger areas, I try not to do that, but when you get into like the 5th to 6th grade, as a matter of fact, Tyree, the other little boy, he started talking to me about storks, and he knows all about that stuff and this, that, and the other, and I said, buddy, I said, you don't need to worry about none of that stuff, because what you need to do is you need to teach them that God calls us as men, and that's what I said. I said, God calls us as men to stay holy and pure until we find the wife that He designed for us.
And either way, isn't the body a temple? I think we should look at that if we're Christians or not. Our bodies are something that shouldn't be taken advantage of by whosoever.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
When we enter into sorry, can I?
Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so talking about the body as a temple thing, you're saying that we should not be taken advantage of, but if it's consensual sex, then we're both taking advantage of the body of another, right? I mean, we're consenting to it. Nobody's, I mean, taking advantage of it is a kind of
actually no, that's not right.
It's not.
Well, being that your mind isn't fully matured until the mid-20s, I'd say anyone would be taken advantage of if they weren't fully matured. It would be as if you were having sex with a child, even if it's two children having sex. You don't really know what you want, and you don't regret that until you're 30-something.
You don't really know what you want.
To be fair, though, whether you're a teenager or an adult, there's older people out there who get used and manipulated as well. Some people are slick. Some people are snakes. Go ahead.
Well, and the other thing you got to consider, it's not just about the sex. People want to say, oh, I fell into love, oh, I fell out of love, oh, I just don't love this person anymore. No, that's not the way it works. That's Hollywood's version, and it's crap. Okay. What you need to understand is that God called us to love. He commands men, husbands, love your wives the way Christ loves the church. And that is to die for her. Not just once, but daily, multiple times throughout the day. But you know what He doesn't do? He doesn't tell women to love their husbands. Why is that? Because God designed that into women. That's why they are the nurturers, the ones that stay home with the kids. I mean, there are so many different things.
I told you. It just gets bad. And here's where I get badly behaved. Look, this is really very simple. People have been having sex outside of wedlock since the dawn of time, and if you think that we're all going to change that, you're wrong. But what we can change if if what we can change is that we raise people to be whole adults, to go into any relationship with honesty and integrity and not take from somebody emotionally or anything else. Women are just as badly behaved as men are. Then we will stop seeing so much of this. It's very, very, very easy when children are not taught their dirty rags in front of this God who could make things better but won't. I mean, if you really want to go down that road, I'm nice to Brett. I'm real nice to Brett because he's real nice to me. But if you want to bring that crap into here, I'm going to tell you some truth.
Here's what you need to understand.
I don't mind you guys getting intense or excited and all that. All I ask is that you allow each other to speak and express each other's opinion and take turns. And try not to get super loud. I have an allergy headache. Go ahead.
I got a question for Hillbilly. He mentioned that God didn't command the wives to love the husbands, even though Titus chapter 2 verse 4 says, and so train the young women to love their husbands and children. So
who's Titus talking to?
May I say that through Christianity, when I found Jesus, I then taught myself to love the husband that I hated. I taught myself to be a slave unto him and give him what he wanted, just to be a good Christian wife, because I was supposed to bow down to him and give him what he needed because I was created for him. My mindset has changed, but that's what I did as a Christian.
I was going to say, wow, that's a really bizarre interpretation of the scripture. But going back to Titus, who is Titus talking to?
Are you really going to use that?
Oh, guys, I understand you guys want to get on a topic, but Crystal, you shared something pretty hardcore and personal and everything like that. I'm sorry to hear about what you went through on that. Just want to say, continue on, individuals.
Well, what was bizarre about?
I want to go back to what somebody said about Titus.
Yeah.
In Titus, it says that the women are to love their husbands. Who's Titus talking to? He's talking to the congregation. He's mainly talking to the older women to teach the younger women how it's supposed to look. But again, when God himself is talking to man and woman, he's showing us exactly how we are designed. Mm-hmm. We are designed to be the protectors, the providers, the ones who go out and bring home the bacon.
Yeah.
Women are designed to be the nurturers.
Yeah, they can still be the nurturers.
Oh my God.
They can still be the nurturers and love their husbands.
It has to be mutual, though, and sometimes people do get taken advantage of, and that's to each his own. Everyone's going to be different. Mm-hmm. People are going to take advantage of situations. One thing that I see is it's hard for me to lead my teenage girls away from sex and being taken advantage of when I was pregnant as a teenager. And that's the example I set, even though I didn't talk about it. That's who I was. I mean, they can count. They can look back and say, oh, you got pregnant at 17. Why can't I? Even though that's not what I stand for now. So how many people in this room had kids under the age of 20 and had their lives changed?
Right. I agree with that, and that is the conversation that you should have with your children. You should say to them, "Look, this is what I did, and this is how it affected me. That this is the example." Agreed. Don't ever feel sorry for making your own mistakes, because they'll make theirs, even if they don't get pregnant. And strangely enough, as liberal as I may seem, as I am very traditional in the home. I mean, my husband is the man of the house. But that's because I'm the woman of the house. I serve him because he serves me. We each have our things that we do. I prefer a much more traditional household, but that doesn't make me any less. I'm a strong, fierce woman to be reckoned with. And I
exactly what I'm talking about. That example
that doesn't have any religion to it. That doesn't have any religion to it, is what I'm trying to say.
What I'm saying, it does, and you just don't realize it. You are actually modeling what God designed, and you don't even realize it.
I'm doing what
I think it just happens to be a coincidence, right? It just happens to be that
That sounds like a coincidence.
Excuse me. The man is to be the head of the house, just exactly the way that Christ is the head of the church.
So what do we do when there's two women that are married? Who
no
takes
such
that
thing.
role on? No such thing? That exists.
That
Regardless of your icon, that exists.
No, well, you can call it marriage, but that's a perversion. That's sin.
No, it's not. And I won't put up with this. Brett, I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm listening.
There are some things I will put up with, and I'll advocate long and hard. But I'm not. I refuse to fight this issue again because again, all people are equal. I won't support separatism. I won't support any of that stuff. I can't do it. I cannot believe any omnipotent God who raised and did all this, who made all this, would allow anybody would deny anybody the gift of love at any time. I won't participate. So if he wants to go down this aisle and he wants to insult these people, then I'm going to leave, and because I just won't participate. Because this stuff stays a thing. This stuff stays a thing as long as we let it stay a thing.
That's completely false.
Well, guys, can we try to be as respectful to each other as possible? And we have to realize everybody's got their own different views and opinions. And if we discuss them and talk to them, perhaps we can come to compromises or a different way of thinking. That's how I view things. I believe it's possible for minds to be changed no matter what side you're on. I'll be right back, folks. I've made a lot of you. I've made a lot of you moderators. I've made a lot of you moderators. Let me see what we got here. I'm going to go ahead and make, I got a few of you already. I'm going to go ahead and make Crystal one, Hillbilly you're one, and Sugar you have been one. So, guys, please keep it clean. I'll be right back in a minute. I got a family to take care of, you know what I mean?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now, Miss Sugar, I have insulted absolutely no one. I'm simply pointing out the fact that when we were created, when we are created, we are all born heterosexual. We are born.
Whoa.
Hold it, ma'am.
All right. Oh, all right.
We are born heterosexual. And if we are not, by definition, born heterosexual, then by definition, that is a birth defect.
And in elementary school, we all want to be teachers and firemen, so that doesn't change either.
So, Hillbilly.
Well, you know what? You just pointed something out. That is a choice. People can choose to engage in all kinds of abominations and perversions, but that doesn't mean that they should go out and have sex with their cat either.
Like, but Christian, if we just thought that something is bad all our lives, then why would anyone choose to do that? Why would anyone choose to be bad? And why would anyone...
Because they want to.
To be a drug addict. Why would anybody choose to be addicted to pornography? There's all kinds of people that choose the different perversions and different addictions. Homosexuality is no different.
It's not a sin.
Addiction. It is an addiction of choice.
It's not a sin.
It's not. And you know what? It can't be, and it doesn't matter. Even if it were a mistake, it doesn't matter. These are human beings.
Yes,
all they want is the right to love another person. You know, the strange thing is, some of the freakiest people I have ever known sexually have been straight. I have met so many. I live right outside of San Francisco. My family's been involved in the LGBT community long before some of y'all were born. So I've been there along this fight with these people. I've met so many. I told you, I had to be taught that not everybody thought that being gay was okay. Right? Because when I was young, growing up, that's what we had. But it is okay. Because it is okay for somebody else. It is okay for anybody who is born that way, because I have never met not one person who said they wanted to walk in the shoes of somebody who had to struggle like that. That's going to be hated, despised, thought of as some kind of a freak because they want to love. Because they want to love.
Sexual.
You know what? You don't know that. Do you propose to know the mind of God? You don't know that God didn't create this for us to challenge us to see who we would love and how we would be in when times were tough. You don't know that.
Poor baby. I don't really know. My whole thing is that even still, it really. Whether on the topic of homosexuality, it shouldn't be against the law. Them getting married shouldn't be that big of a deal, especially if it's about a state-sanctioned institution. Like it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter to religion because you're religion. You're not the government, so why do you care?
The government didn't institute marriage, sir. God did. Why do you think God instituted marriage?
Right, so keep the marriage your business.
Hey there, anarchist. Why don't you be quiet for just a second?
Yeah, Christian, I wanted to ask you about your broad assertion that everyone is born heterosexual.
Will you be quiet for a second? He instituted marriage to be the foundation of our very society. Now you may speak.
Our very society, like, that's very weird and just like kind of overly broad. Like you're looking at like traditions that are only maybe like 5, 6, 7, 800, maybe 1,000, maybe even 2 years old throughout the course of the Mediterranean and Western Europe. Like you're really skipping over a lot of different places that are even older than what we know of. Like that's really weird. The foundation of our society.
That marriage ever since the beginning of time. First people were married. Adam and Eve were married.
Really? It says that they had a marriage?
Have you ever read the Bible?
Yeah, I've read Genesis. I've never seen anything about them having a ceremony, consecrating that they were in fact married.
God created the woman specifically for Adam and brought the woman to Adam. That is the very first marriage. He actually names her at that point. He also says, "You are flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone." And then it's also pointed out in another area of Scripture, kind of slips my mind where right now, but Eve, the flesh needed to create Eve, was not taken from Adam's head so she could lord over him, was not taken from Adam's foot so he could stomp on her and stand on her and dominate her, but taken from his side so it would be close to his heart and he could put his arm around her and protect her and provide for her. It's very specific why God does everything in Scripture.
Well,
And in the world, too.
when you look at it, women were created as lesser. We were created for man. Are we not supposed to speak up in church? Aren't we supposed to abide by certain rules that men are not?
No, that's not it at all. You all were not created to be like our car wash, dishwasher, and sexual plaything. No, that's not what it's all about. It's all about being a helpmeet is the way it's actually translated, but I can't remember. I am dead tired. It's been a long day today. I cannot remember the actual word that is used. But God, in another place in Scripture, actually uses that word for himself in relation to the nation of Israel. So no, this is not a derogatory position. This is not something lesser than man, just different. I mean, you've got two human beings that are designed to play two specifically unique roles in the family. That's it.
So I guess what Hillbilly is saying is that we're just different, and any sort of abuses of authority by men would be attributed to man's sinful nature, not God's plan. Am I right?
Well, again, if a man is abusing a woman, or what was the word you used, lorded over it at her or whatever, that's not the way we're designed to be.
All right. Well, here's my question, Hillbilly. What about Matthew chapter 19, verse 12, where it says some people aren't born heterosexual, they're born eunuchs?
It doesn't say they're not born heterosexual, sir. It says some people are born eunuchs.
Do you know what a eunuch is?
Yes, sir, I do.
And do you realize that they don't have any liking for sex?
Shut up long enough to hear an answer?
Like you do to me?
Thank you. Again, when the Bible is talking about eunuch, it's not talking about a homosexual. It's not talking about a quote-unquote transsexual, which there is no such thing. It's just a homosexual who mutilates their body. It is talking about someone who has put off sexual desire to the point of even mutilating their own body. Do you know that they sacrificed their ability to even go into the temple the Holy of Holies by doing that. So no, this is not about sexual preference there, CA. I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
No, I didn't say sexual preference. These are people that were born and didn't have any sexual preferences whatsoever.
No, that's absolutely wrong. No. They had preferences. They were still born heterosexual. They had all the working parts.
So you're denying the scripture.
Hey, shut up for a second. But when it came time for them to decide what to do with their working parts, they chose to be eunuchs. So in essence, they were born for that particular purpose.
Some choose to be eunuchs, some are born. We don't have libertarian free will.
This is why men are cutting their penises off, because they can't stay away from women, and they have such a lust.
Those are the that's the eunuchs that choose to live
And this is the people who cannot procreate as God intended.
Protecting the harem.
Yeah, there are heterosexuals that then choose to be eunuchs, but then there are some that are just born eunuchs. The Bible clearly states it in Romans, or Matthew, chapter 19, verse 12.
Eunuch has nothing to do with sexual preference, sir.
Yes, it does. Look up the word.
You are dumber than a box of rocks. Let me go ahead and tell you that. Look up that word.
And you are rude as hell.
I sure can be.
Well, I mean, you can't blame him. He believes that we're able to make a choice without God interfering in it. What I believe that God doesn't even allow the decision to happen unless He makes it happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Let me ask you a question. If God says, here's choice A and choice B, I don't want you to pick choice B, and if you pick choice B, there will be consequences. Isn't that an example of Him showing us that we have free will and we have the ability to exercise that free will?
We have a choice, but we choose what we want, not whatever, we can't independently choose anything out of our... for example, Jesus says that they can't choose Him. Nobody can go to Christ unless the Father says you're able to.
Now you're changing the goalposts. That's not what we're talking about.
No, we're talking about choice still. We're still talking about choice.
We are talking about free will choice.
Yeah, and that's what I was mentioning, choice.
God, and do you choose to obey the commandments, or do you choose to dishonor God, be self-centered, and break the commandments?
I choose to obey the commandments because God has allowed me to.
Oh, really? All the time? You've never broken a commandment?
I've broken the commandments, yeah. There are some people that they have their ways, and others they don't. For example, Romans chapter 9, verses 22 to 23 states that God creates some people just for the purpose of going to hell, and others so He can show His glory and His mercy.
Yep, that's exactly right. But you know what? He knew what they would choose.
Because He predestined everything.
Well, He predestined some things, but He
No,
does
all of
not
it.
predestine all things.
He does predestine
No,
everything.
He predestines the main things, but He gives each and every one of us, because God Himself said, I would have every single person come to the saving knowledge of Christ. But guess what? It doesn't happen. Why? Because God allows us to choose.
Welcome back there, Tommy. And folks, I noticed a couple individuals have left the room. Hopefully they weren't kicked and they just simply felt that they needed to do other things.
I believe
I don't kick anybody there, Brother Brett, but it could be that moment when I pass some gas. I'm sorry.
Oh, I hear you. Well, I'm glad to see you're still in here, Gray, and things haven't gotten too wild and obnoxious. So how are we all doing?
I mean, I'm an abomination, or that I've chosen a sinful life, and 2 women can't raise children. Other than that, it's been fine.
Well, I think you would have... I'm not sure I'm still on the homosexuality thing, but I think that they still can raise children. My aunt certainly has done so a good job.
Our Billy loves to proclaim condemnation and lay laws that are fulfilled and rules on the backs of people that they can't bear and that he himself does not follow. He loves to proclaim condemnation instead of grace. And I hereby Hold on, one more thing. As an ambassador of Christ Jesus, it is my good pleasure to announce to you that you are no abomination.
Appreciate that. Appreciate
but
that.
very lovely.
Even Tommy,
Appreciate
you are a liar right straight from the pit of hell. Do you know, without understanding that the law condemns
Grace.
every one of us, without understanding that the law condemns each and every one of us,
Grace.
you cannot have grace. You can't, because you don't even know what grace is. You don't get grace until you get the mercy. You got to come to the mercy seat of Christ before you can accept grace.
Guys,
now, come on, heathen.
Guys, before you go into a holy war between each other and all that, which I can just predict and feel that it's going to happen, it's going to be grace, commandments, it's going to be rock and roll. I feel it. I just want to say to Gray, because Gray did sound like she was being a bit sarcastic, but also kind of hurt a little bit. Gray, you're always welcome into my room to have discussions, all that. I want you to know that you're always welcome here, all right? And I'm sorry if you feel like you've been put in some kind of awkward position. Go ahead, guys.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Brett, and I don't feel like that. I kind of know a little bit of background about the types of discussions that these rooms get into. It's just when I hear things like that, I mean, yeah, I'm going to take offense to it because I've been married to my wife for 5 years. We're raising 4 children, and we're in a lesbian legal marriage, and I take offense to just how quickly that's cast aside and made fun of by straight pride Christian, I don't even know, the hillbilly. It attacking for no reason. I didn't go after him for whatever else. I don't know.
Let me say this. I never attacked you. I never.
Well, okay, my
what I did do,
I don't even know.
Is I do proclaim the truth, and the truth.
Homosexuality bothers Billy.
Silence.
Okay, I didn't realize that. I guess I should have known that from the icon straight pride.
But what I'm going to tell you, though, is the truth. I'll never shy away from telling you the truth. I'm not trying to be mean to you or nothing like that. The fact is that God created us to be heterosexual. And that's just the way it is.
There was an interesting subject, hillbilly as well as anarchist, that you both brought up. It sounded like we were getting a little bit into free will and predestined. And I have a bit of an issue on this topic because if it is true that everything is predestined and is limited to a parameter, how can we hold anybody accountable if they're simply doing what they've been predestined and designed to do? Go ahead.
Well, I can put in the best words as this one pastor did. I would suggest looking up a couple sermons from John Piper. He's addressly directed exactly what you're bringing up. How where there is a limit to our abilities of choice and will, then how are we supposed to be held accountable to our actions? And he does a very good job diving well into the scriptures to clarify the answers that he has for his congregation.
Right, but I've showed the definition of free will, and I know some people believe that free will simply means that you have a choice, which is by definition what it is. But I noticed you give analogies of, well, if I have choice, then why can't I grow bird wings and start flying? Which I think whenever it says choice, whatever is logically possible, not that you simply throw on a cape and head to Krypton. Go ahead.
Right. That's what we try to determine, that that's why there's the free inside the part of the will. But then, of course, free will has other definitions based on the evolving of the definitions that get added on to that word. There's free will that you can choose anything without limits, hence the definition of free. And then there's free will that just means choice. I believe there's choice, but I believe our choices are limited based on our sinful desires and nature, because me being a compatibilist, I believe that we are fallen from the original sin that started in the garden with Adam and Eve, and that's pretty much it. We now have a sinful nature, and we choose to do evil.
Go ahead and finish that statement. Adam and Eve.
Hold on a second. I never heard you actually mention that word before. I refer to myself as a compatibilist. I believe that some things are predetermined and set in stone, but I also believe there's a choice within the parameters. Almost like that of, and some people are going to think my analogy is ridiculous, but I am a gamer. A game has been designed, and we have the choice in how we're going to play our character. our
Right.
vessel or automobile. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. I mean, then I think we're not going to really disagree that much, since we actually found a definition for what our views are concerning the topic of free will. I mean, I would agree with you on that.
Well, sounds fair enough to me. I do like it when there's agreement every once in a while.
Same here.
I hear that, brother. No, but going back to you, Gray, I'm not being abusive. I'm not being rude. I'm talking directly to you in a very polite format. But I'm also a Christian. I'm also a firm believer in what the Bible says. Right from the very first verse where it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, to the very last word of Revelation where it says, amen. Brett mentioned earlier that we've known each other for well over a decade. And again, he'll tell you, I generally do not try and get rude with people. Now, I make an exception for Tommy because he's just a downright heathen that doesn't need to be claimed to be Christian because he makes people think something that ain't true. But anyway, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable in here. I have really good friends that are homosexual, and I still consider them friends, but I also still tell them the truth, that God loves you just the way you are, and He loves you enough not to leave you that way in your sin. He doesn't want you to go to hell. He wants you to repent, and He wants to have a relationship with you.
So I need to leave my wife and my children to go to God.
Gray, if you want to repent, then again, there's other ways of raising those kids.
I need to leave my wife, who I'm
Excuse me.
devoted to, and my 4 kids to go to God.
Those kids, again, unless you had some kind of artificial insemination, are not yours biologically. So once again, what we've got to look at this is the way God designed it to be. You can repent, you could still raise those children, but it's the lesbian relationship that would have to be nullified.
Well, divorce is also wrong. So if someone has
sure
children, then they need to leave their wife because it's not right and these are not their children. And you're not what's best for these children because your man is not their father.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're wrong. See, divorce, God hates divorce because divorce...
And remarriage.
Families.
Only if the ex is dead.
Divorce breaks families. Now, when a family gets broken, sometimes it's irreparable. Sometimes one of the two parties cannot bring themselves to forgive the other in a timely way to where people can come back together and have that relationship. That's just the way it is. God knows that. That's one of the reasons in the Bible that God does allow divorce. But we need to understand the way God designed marriage to be is to be between one man and one woman who are loving and committed to each other and loving and committed to those children, the next generation. This is by far, bar none, the best way to raise children.
Would straight pride be a best way to raise children?
Absolutely.
So you're saying promote pride when it said, when pride cometh, then cometh shame. But with the lowly is wisdom. Everyone who's proud in the heart is an abomination to the Lord. Thou hand join, ye shall not be punished. A man's pride.
I thought you were done. Again, when I'm talking about pride, I'm talking about pride in the way God designed you to be a man, to stand up and protect your family. There's nothing wrong with that kind of pride. No, pride, the way you're talking about there, sir, is a form of idolatry, where you're putting that thing before God and the way you should be relating to God or talking or treating God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Being gay isn't putting your spouse before God. It's a mutual relationship of two people who love each other, not two people who believe they're better than God and don't need God.
Mm-hmm.
Well, man, let's do this, shall we? Let's call it what it is. It's not gay, it's homosexual. Homosexual is the definition that we're using here because gay has nothing to do with homosexuality. Now, when it goes to the equality of the relationship and this, that, and the other, no. God designed male and female to be specifically unique, not just physically, but mentally as well. They complement one another. They are designed to do so.
Are you saying that?
I was going to say, I think we got to be careful as God believers. It is one thing for us to share our view with people because we're supposed to. We're supposed to go out and sow seeds and share our view. But when it gets to a point where it's one time, two times, three times, over and over and over, I think it starts running into a very pushy, aggressive situation that we don't want to find ourselves in. I think the concept has been shared. Individuals have heard it. And maybe another avenue needs to be taken. Do you understand what I'm getting at, folks?
Right. Well, and here's one thing I'd like to offer to Gray. I don't know if she's atheist, religious, or not. But if she's not Christian or not religious in general, then I would like to offer that if you want, I can witness the gospel to you. If you want on your own time, I would be happy to, say whatever. It can be public, be private, whatever the heck you want. All right. I mean, that's the whole point. I don't think
I appreciate that. I am atheist, but I appreciate I appreciate your kindness. I do. I'm not looking to convert. My point is,
right,
with Christian Hillbilly is two women can functionally raise children without the role of the father there. It's very possible.
I agree. Because my wife can't.
And you want to know why?
Well, why? I mean,
here's the reason why.
And
here's the reason why.
Happening. We're actually able to raise our children.
Well, you know what?
They're okay. They're not killing anybody.
Kids are quite resilient, and sometimes they might even come out halfway normal after that type of relationship. But
guys, I realize everybody's views are very intense and passionate, and I commend everyone from every side, but we have to allow each other to finish and take turns in here. If you guys just talk over each other, we won't be able to hear what's actually being said. Please, guys, I know we can do it.
Like I was saying, when it comes down to two women, or two men for that matter, trying to raise children, it doesn't work, because it doesn't matter how loving those two women are to one another, they can never give an example in the family of how a man relates to a woman, how a husband relates to a wife.
Wow.
And again,
you are insanely idiotic.
Pardon me, hang on just a
second.
You
are insanely stupid.
Not quite done yet. Thank you.
You are mentally disabled.
Not quite done yet.
But you're disabled, like in the... Stop muting me.
Face Smasher, listen, Face Smasher.
Hi, Brett.
I understand you might get aggravated at the topic, but we got to allow each other to finish our points and opinions, all right? Now, chill out, folks, all right? Go ahead, guys.
Now, again, it doesn't matter how loving and committed those people are to each other. In order for that to happen, in order for that example to happen for those kids to understand what it looks like for male and female, husband and wife, man and woman, then you've got to bring outside sources in. You don't have the equipment necessary to do that. Two women can never show or tell a little boy what it's like to go through puberty. Two men can never tell a little girl this is what it's like when you have your period.
Because we couldn't learn that from a book, right?
One more thing, and I'll give it up. Not only that, but when it comes right down to it, you are raising those children in a single-parent environment, and single-parent environments are never a good situation in which to raise children. You're up there, Gray.
This is a single-parent environment, though, that has double the love for the children.
You got to turn up your mic, dear. I can hardly hear you.
There's two people loving these kids. There's two people guiding these kids. Two people who care about what happens to these kids. I mean, how is that not different than a single parent household?
Were you not paying attention, ma'am, when I spoke earlier?
Folks,
Can
Crystal,
you
I
repeat the question,
appreciate
please?
Crystal, I appreciate you wanting to get up there. You're going to have to turn up your mic. And number two, we were actually wanting to allow Gray to go next because it was her turn. But I do want to hear you, Crystal. You seem like a very intelligent person.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Gray, go ahead.
Well, in regards to, because we have a little boy, when it comes time to talk to him about puberty or things that pertain to a little boy, there's no reason you should believe that can't be taught to him by a female. I can read. I know what he's going through. I can talk to him about what he's going through. I have male friends that I can talk to also help educate him what he's going to be experiencing through puberty or relationships. It's not like I don't have the ability to field a question from a little boy who's growing up and give him the answers he needs to help him grow up. I think that's absurd to think that a female or two moms wouldn't be able to teach their little boy that.
From a book? You're going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, let's reference chapter 2 over here. Oh, yeah, yeah. Look, there's a nice little picture here.
Don't you reference things from the Bible? How is that any different from referencing something from a book?
Ma'am,
Sir?
You cannot relate to that child. You can read him a book, but you cannot relate to that young man going through puberty as a man.
Christian,
no matter how hard you want to be a man, no matter how hard you want to look like a man,
No, it has nothing to do with trying to look like a man.
You cannot relate to that little boy
moms can't even raise
while he's
a man. There are plenty of awesome men out there who were raised by a single mom, one mom. And how did she do that? How did she raise such an incredible young man all by herself? How did she do that? How did she do that?
You know what? Like I said, children are very resilient. That's quite true. But is that because they can survive something? Does that mean that we should make that the standard for which all children should be raised? Should we elevate that brokenness of a broken single-parent family? Should we elevate that to the status of normalcy, like a heterosexual biological family that loves each other? Hell no.
All right, I'm done. Thank you, sir.
May I have a quick enter my opinion really quickly? Okay. It doesn't seem like anyone else is up. I'd like to apologize for butting in earlier. I didn't like things that were being said, and I should have dealt with it better. But I'd just like to quickly say, she didn't say that she would just reference the books. She brought up how she could talk to other males that she knew, and you completely ignored that she said that. She can understand, just because you haven't experienced it, doesn't mean you can't understand it. There are a lot of terrible things, just think of something bad that's happened in history. You can understand that that thing was bad, but you didn't experience it. You still know the feelings that went through people's minds. Just because you weren't there for it, or didn't have it happen to you, doesn't mean you don't know what it's about, or how it feels, or what it is.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that apology, and I appreciate your conversation, but let me go ahead and point something out to you. Not everybody has horrific things happen to them, but everybody goes through puberty. And guess what? A father can better relate to his son about that issue of going through puberty than the mother can relate to the son. Why? Because the father has experienced those feelings, has gone through those hormones, can relate to them in that way. Now, if you think anything other than that, if you think that you can read a book and relate that to a child and that be on a par level as having a father in the situation, well, let me ask you a question. Did you have a father in your life?
Christian, I think that's a bit personal, but that doesn't really matter. That's beyond the point. But
Adam.
Yeah.
I didn't ask you.
Oh,
Sorry.
jeez.
I just wanted-
Did you have a father in your life?
Yes, but I would also like to slightly agree with what Adam said. That doesn't seem to be. But go on. Yes.
Oh, okay, great. See, you right there have had the example of a father figure in your life. And so now, having had that example of a father figure in your life, you're trying to rob all the rest of these children for the next generations from having a father figure? I'm sorry, that's just wrong.
Wait,
And do you have kids? Do you have kids?
Nah.
Do what?
No. No.
Okay. Well, when you start having kids, you'll realize how important the father is in the family. One of the main statistics that you can quote every single day of the week is that when there is no father in the house, no biological, loving, committed father in the house, that the chances for those children to be sexually abused, dramatically higher chances of using drugs, alcohol, sexually promiscuous, you name it, they skyrocket. So again, the father
Do you
is
have evidence to back that up?
situation.
Are you just saying that, or is there anything that proves that, or is it just you're saying that because it sounds
No,
good
sir.
for you?
No, sir. Why don't you go do just one little search? Why don't you go look into the prison records and see how many of those people locked up in prisons come from single-parent families?
That's because single parenthood is a common thing. It has nothing to do.
Parenthood is bad for the family, sir.
No, it's because it's common.
How many people in prison have gay parents? I'm guessing not very many. Or is there statistics on that too?
There really actually aren't.
There's no such thing as homosexual parents. Homosexual.
But there is. I'm one. What are you talking about? There's no such thing. I am one.
They can only recruit children
Christian,
or
I'm sorry,
bring children in from another relationship.
What about adoption? So, wait, by that logic, would you say that if someone adopted... Wait, but if a straight couple adopted, would you say that that was their child? The child that they adopted?
Yes, because it is, again...
But you just changed that to double
Are you
standard.
going to shut up long enough to let me finish my answer? Thank you.
180 on your...
Thank you. Again, when a person adopts, when a husband and a wife, they adopt a child, they are still doing so working in the image of the way God created the family unit, the family structure to be. Now, when two people of the same sex, when homosexuals try and do something of that nature, they are going outside of the norm. Why don't you go look this up in the dictionary? Perversion.
So you're saying, I'm sorry.
Outside of the normal use for something else.
Now, I would like to say, what you said was that if someone brings a child in from another family, if they don't give, you said that if they didn't have that child themselves, then they weren't the parents. You completely 180'd. You completely changed your logic just to try to help make yourself sound better, sir.
Let me go ahead and, I don't want to call you a liar, but you're either not listening or you are...
You're not the only person that thinks that. Someone else said it while you were talking.
I said...
Yeah, you said...
The parent. Because, again, homosexuals cannot be parents. By definition, they cannot bear children.
Newsflash, I'm a homosexual and I have 4 children that I had out of my own body. Does that count?
How biology works, their face?
Yeah, oh wait, I'd just like to point out what she said really quickly. I'd like to see your response to that. Because you said that I'd like to see how you respond to what she just said about those 4 children she had came out of her body and she is a homosexual parent.
Well, yeah, and she had a sperm donor. That's quite a fact.
No, I had a husband for 12 years, and just because he's a man, it doesn't make him a father. Just because there's a man in the household, it doesn't mean that he's a good role model for the children. Yes, he can teach a boy about his penis, and he can teach a boy about sex. That doesn't mean he's teaching him the right ways.
Once again, you're not listening to what I'm saying. Let me ask you, ma'am, are you blonde?
Blind or blonde? Because I'm neither.
blonde because
No. Are you saying I'm stupid?
Either you intentionally don't understand what I'm saying, or you're intentionally avoiding the topic.
I really wish. Can you tell me the topic? Because it kind of keeps changing, and once I'm able to jump in between you two guys bickering, I think the subject has changed. So can you please tell me the question again? I'm not blind.
Back,
Are you?
I'm back, guys, and can we try something just for a moment? Can we, how shall I say, take a break on this particular subject of homosexuality and talk about some other things for a little bit? Because it's getting rough, guys, and I don't want people getting all pissed off at each other. Then you don't get any ground with anybody. You feel me?
Fair enough. Yeah.
I just want some respect. I want people to know that not all homosexuals are walking around in assless chaps and having sex in front of their children. And you know what? Not all Christians are part of the Westboro Baptist Church. I can't view all Christians like that, as you can't view all homosexuals in a bad way.
That sounds very fair.
That sounds fair enough. So is there any other subjects that anybody would like to talk about? Any questions? What's going on in the world and the news, all that kind of stuff? Let's just take, not saying that we have to completely cut off the conversation, but let people relax and chill and breathe for a little bit.
I don't know, I probably missed the conversation about the title of the Hangout on YouTube. Did we already talk about that, or?
We talked about it at the beginning a bit. Basically, is atheism child abuse? Obviously, I believe that there are some atheists out there who make wonderful fathers and mothers, very, very intelligent people. But I think that when you see a lot of these anti-theist atheists, especially on the internet, who are seen by children, a lot of atheists had to agree that it's going way to the extreme, just as Reverend Phelps is a complete and utter asshat doing the kind of things that he used to do before he died. Go ahead, guys.
That's I agree. I think just being an atheist doesn't really sway you either way to be a bad parent or a good parent. And just as I don't think any religion whatsoever sways you towards being a good or bad parent, I don't really think it has any effect. I think it's more about personality than what you believe. So yeah.
So that's an excellent point. Let's try this out. What makes a good parent, then, ladies and gentlemen? I'm a parent, but I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts are.
Well, as for me, I'll be right back. I've got to go tuck in my 9-year-old boy. You know, I may not be able to love him, but I'm going to go tuck him in because I'm a great parent, even though I'm a homosexual. And you guys carry on, and I'll be back in a moment.
Once again, ma'am, you're twisting something that I said into something I didn't say. Child. I said that you cannot relate to that child while they go through puberty. You can't explain.
She's gone, you know. She can't hear you.
Brett has asked us to change the subject.
Christian, she can't hear you. There's no
just for a little bit. I don't mind future talks of this, perhaps even in 20 minutes if you guys want to bring back up the subject. I just want for you, Hillbilly, and for all the individuals that are discussing this to take a breath, relax, and think about some things for a little bit before going at it, because at this point it's just, how shall I say, it's kind of like the Batman and Joker trying to move the immovable object. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
Well, it just seemed like
right on the nose.
Hillbilly got to say
I'm
his
a
point.
Batman fanatic.
Hillbilly got to say his point, and Crystal never got to say hers. It was a very one-sided conversation, and it's unfortunate that we need to take a time out, but she was trying to say her point, and then the conversation has to change.
Well, if I have come in and I've cut off someone before they got to finish their words, then I am totally for when Crystal returns that she says whatever was on her mind, and I apologize for cutting her off if that's the case. Sound good, Gray?
No, that sounds fair. That's fine. It's just, I mean, she does have a point to make, and I don't think she was at a point where she was ready to take a break before she was ready to make a point. So it's one-sided.
It sounds fair enough. You know what I'm going to do? I'll tell you what, obviously she's going to be a moment and everything. I'm going to go take me a 5-minute break outside, and you guys handle your business. I'll be right back. Just make sure that nobody comes in and flashes my screen. Okay, no ding-dongs or breasts on my screen. Be right back.
I guess something I wanted to quickly talk about, it's a shame Brett had to go, Something I kind of wanted to bring up with him. I was in the Google Hangout yesterday. I got kicked. Towards the end, I was mad, and it's over. But I was talking with Brett about the drunken peasants. I think Pierce was there. I don't know if he has his.
Listen in the slip mouth.
And so I don't know. Pierce probably can't. I think he's putting his headphones in. But I think Pierce was there yesterday when we were talking about the drunken peasants, and I was thinking on this for a while. And it's, again, a shame Brett wasn't here because I kind of wanted to say this to him. But
I'm still here. I heard you brought up my name, and I couldn't completely walk away till you finished. Go ahead. I'll answer your question, then I'll go take my 5-minute break.
I just quickly wanted to say, obviously yesterday we didn't get along well. We were talking about the drunken peasants, which is, there are a lot of people that don't like them, and they don't like a lot of people. That happens. I would just like to quickly say on the subject, because I was thinking on it all day, I know, Brett, you don't like them, they don't like you, it's a feud, but I would just like to say, from what I know of them and from what I've seen here, I think, as much as you guys have your disagreements, I do think that, it's hard to say, it's like, I think, there's a bit of a middle ground I feel like you guys can meet at of, I feel like, maybe from Brett, from what I've seen of your videos, just sometimes I think maybe the things you say, maybe they go out a bit too far. Just from talking to you now, you seem to be reasonable, but sometimes I feel like things you say, maybe I'm watching the wrong videos, kind of go out too far, and sometimes I feel like yesterday saying that they quit, I think there's a bit more to be looked into that, and I just think it would...
Okay, Face Smasher, I'm going to go ahead and respond to you. There are some things that they may have said in their videos, I haven't seen them all, where I might agree with them on a subject or topic. It wouldn't be the first time I've agreed with a non-believer or someone of a different religion on their particular view on a particular topic. But the problem is, one of my big issues with them is making fun of rape victims on Twitter. I talked to them about that, and they sat there and didn't seem like they were at all sorry for what they did. Number two, they antagonized and continued to make challenges towards Kent Hovind to debate him, and when he said yes he would, they then tried to find other people to debate him. Now, if I were to say to Adam, you're this and you're that and you're dumb and blah, 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 and you couldn't debate your way out of a wet paper bag, and he goes, all right, Brett, let's debate then. And I say, okay, hold on, let me get my friend Bob here real quick. I mean, would you not think that was chicken? Be honest.
I understand that. But from my understanding of it, what I saw was, because I remember whenever they called him out, I do remember them saying that they didn't want to debate them himself, and that they wanted to, especially with, a big thing was that no cursing rule. You know the drunken peasants as well as I do, that's not going to go well for them.
Well, then that's too bad. Then they shouldn't challenge people to debates, because when you challenge somebody to debate, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything is going to run the way you want to. You're not always going to control the entire situation. That's why when you see Kent Hovind or Bill Nye or Christopher Hitchens in the past, they did their debates with a moderator, and they knew not to go up there and go, F this, F that. If you challenge someone to a debate, then it needs to be treated like a debate, not some sit-down in a bar where you drink beer, snort crack, and just cuss each other out all day. That's not a damn debate.
From what I heard of them, I feel like what they were trying to say was come on the show, and I remember them saying come on the show and debate someone. I don't remember them saying we want to debate you.
Kent Hovind sat there and told them that they could broadcast through the drunken peasants if they wanted to, that they even would have the rights to sell the property, that it would be theirs just as well as his, where they could do whatever they wanted with on their end, but the debate would have to happen in a mutual place, not just on the drunken peasants where they could run wild on them. Kent Hovind is a professional. If TJ wants to play, I'm the gimmick, I'm a comedian, and I need to cuss and act like a Rudy Poo candy ass, then do that. But don't ask for people like Kent Hovind on the show. What's wrong with them? I'll be right back, guys.
I don't know. I think they wanted to have... I'll let Brett go. I'm not going to... I don't want to hold him. But I just think... I think we disagree on that. I don't think they specifically asked to debate him, but I mean, whatever. The debate doesn't seem like it's going to happen, so I guess it's over with. It's not. I guess there's no point in arguing with it. Well, like, and it's also me and Brett are obviously both majorly biased, I would say. Brett obviously doesn't like the Drunken Peasants. I watch like all of their live streams, so we're both biased. So I guess having an argument on that is a bit pointless whenever we're both biased in our own ways, as everyone is. But there isn't much of a point in us just arguing about it over when we're both on completely opposite sides. As Brett said earlier, with the whole debate, the whole conversation that was going on earlier, everyone was on complete opposite sides, and no one's going to change their mind. Although it is a shame that someone didn't get to finish, and hopefully she'll come back and get to finish what she was saying. And yeah.
I don't know. I don't really like the Drunken Peasants. They just kind of are shitty people. Like, I made a podcast that, like, criticized TJ, and before it was even, like, made public, like, it was still in private uploading, they already had claimed part of it. And then I contacted them about it, and they, just said that, oh, that's an automatic system, sorry about your luck. And I was unable to publish the video because of the claim.
Right. I think the problem there would be that I remember they talked about stuff like this. They have I do believe, that they have I guess a company that they go through.
It's in YouTube it's called an MCN, and they had to set that up in the MCN to automatically do copyright claims, and/or they approve it, which means they watch the segment of the video that is claimed. So either they saw it or already preset it to have it automatically flagged.
Now I remember them saying that. Talking about something similar.
Yeah, this happens to a lot of people that even use TJ's face in a video. So what happened is they had a another podcast that was talking about TJ and used one of his videos, and they were just like, oh, it's just a complete ripoff. And that was the same time it happened to me. It was some other, I don't remember the name.
Now. What I do remember them saying was that they personally would not, and again, I guess they could just be straight up lying. Obviously, I guess that's possible. But I do remember them saying that as far as they were concerned, that stuff was okay with them, and that it wasn't automatic. But again, I don't know enough about it. And again, biases, I guess, come into play.
Well, all I know about it is that I did contact them, I got a response, and all I got back was, oh, I'm high as fuck, I'll do what I can, and then the next day he's like, oh, whatever, I'll see what I can do, and then there was no attempt to repeal the claim, and if I disputed the claim again, I would lose the copyright, or I would actually get a copyright strike.
Yeah. I remember them talking about it, so I can't,
Yeah, I know. The only way I would have been
obviously this is a situation of, what did they say and what did they actually do, and, so.
Well, I am back, by the way. I have noticed, surprisingly, that there are a lot of atheists out there on YouTube who seem to have the same view as the God believers on this. They felt like a challenge was put out, personal attacks were made, and Kent Hovind stated he would go ahead and do it. He just didn't want it to be like a duel or some kind of nasty personal attack fight. I am very surprised, too, that some of the atheists aren't noticing the other problem here. He tried to get Thunderfoot to debate. And if he cared or had any respect for Thunderfoot at all, who is an atheist scientist, by the way, he would have realized that Thunderfoot's father just passed away recently. Who wants to go into a debate after they just lost someone they care about and do that? They didn't even look into it. They just said, we're going to throw him into the mix. Disrespectful.
I would like to say, every time you've ever asked somebody, maybe it's an old friend you haven't talked to in a while or something, I just don't think that's a thing you automatically check or think about. Maybe, it's understandable to think that they just didn't know about that, and they asked him, and he said, and plus they said that his response was something along the lines of, I don't want to debate Kent Hovind, not, my father just died, I don't want to do this, but,
Well, Thunderfoot has put videos up there. I was one of the many individuals who went over, left a comment, and basically said, "I'm sorry for your loss," and all this. And a lot of non-believers and God-believers saw it, but Amazing Atheist didn't notice. He didn't notice that his supposed friend's father passed away. My goodness, man!
I don't know.
You're not going to really try justifying that, are you? Come on.
It's not that I'm trying to justify it. I'm just saying. I don't know if they're friends or not, but alright. But I just want to say, I feel like that's a bit of a guilt trip, though, to say he didn't do that. I mean, it's obviously sad that happened, do not get me wrong. But it's not like he was saying, oh, I don't care that your father died, right? And I mean, for all we know, TJ has said something to him. And maybe they had a personal conversation, we don't really know. And I mean, I haven't heard about this. I haven't looked into it. I haven't heard about it at all. I didn't know this was a thing that happened. So, yeah. But I don't think that asking him to join a debate after his father died, even if they had known, I don't think that was unreasonable. But at the same time, I also don't think they disrespected him. And I'm sure if they are friends. Which I know they're both, YouTube atheists, but that, obviously doesn't mean they're friends. Maybe they've stated that they're friends, I'm not sure.
Face Smasher, have you forgotten I myself, including a few others, went on to the Drunken Peasants? Do you not recall how that went down? It was no kind of debate or discussion. In fact, it actually got into racial slurs. I had a friend there by the name of G-Man, a lot of you know who he is, and the word nigger was used over and over again. This is not entertainment, this is not fun, this is not funny, it was disgusting and primitive.
I will watch that, honestly. I had a friend who was talking about you being on that, and I believe it was brought up yesterday when I was on. I will go back and watch that video. I honestly don't know. I haven't seen the video where you were on the Drunken Peasants. I did know that it happened. I just never went back and watched it. I will watch that to see what happened and make a judgment call.
It'll make you vomit. You got any morals and ethics at all, you're probably going to puke. A lot of non-believers actually agreed that was a sick sign of what the future of atheism is if it goes that direction.
Guys, if you got a second, I want to just jump in before I head off to bed for the night. It's hard to remember where we were at, 20 minutes ago. But what I was speaking of is, having a same-sex couple in the household as opposed to having a man in the house. I feel like, if I was stuck with my 12-year marriage to try to salvage my kid's fate, it wouldn't have worked because they would have ended up being racist, womanizing, just assholes because of who my ex was. And just having a man in the house doesn't mean you have a stable household. I feel like having two loving individuals in a house makes a loving household. And yes, they are going to have a father. Any child born whose parents don't die, they're going to have a father. And he's going to be there as that figure. But women can carry that out. They can be the children. They can be the nurturers. And, it's just proof right now that I feel like my children are in the most stable environment that they've ever been in.
Crystal, may I say that I hope that you have the most successful, happy, wonderful life that you can ever have. And I hope the same for your entire family and who you're involved with. All I ask is don't give up on God. Okay?
Amen to that, Brother Brett. And
I was a Sunday school teacher for 5 years.
I said for a second that you couldn't love your kids. I never said that for a second. What I'm saying is that children need their loving biological father. That loving is important because if you've got an abusive man in the house, shoot, might end up like Ethan Thomas. Like I said, might end up like Ethan Tommy.
I grew up in a household. My dad was there, he was present, but that doesn't mean he was a father. I didn't learn anything from him. Had two brothers, they didn't learn anything from him besides don't do what he does, don't drink, don't share needles, don't gamble away your family's life savings. Sometimes it's what we learn not to do. And yes, I feel like there's some good things in the Bible. There's some good things that people need to hold on to. But if you can go out there and carry out, you know, a relationship, woman-woman, man-man, it doesn't matter. If you can make a stable household and give your family what they need, I don't feel like it really matters who the people are. It's just that you have that support system for your children, for your family, and you're looking out for the best interests.
If you're looking out for the best interest of your children, then your children need a father figure in their life. They need someone who is going to love them and be committed to them, be able to relate to them when they go through similar situations growing up, to teach them to be a man. A woman cannot do that.
Well, someone needs to teach a man how to be a man if they're not a man for their children. First, they have to learn how to be a man before they can represent a man in their child's life.
And
not all men are like that. But I do agree, there's some good men out there. But good luck getting a hold of one.
You don't have to get upset with me.
She's got a good point, though, Hillbilly. There's a lot of men out there that don't want to take responsibility, no matter if it's biological or not. Sometimes a person has to do with what the best they can do.
Exactly, and you know what? That's the problem. If we're not teaching the basics, like the Bible talks about how the older women in the church should come alongside the younger women in the church and teach them how to be good wives. And the same thing goes for men. Men need to be with other good Christian men. The Bible calls that iron sharpening iron. Men need to be domesticated. That's what women do for men. That's part of the deal.
You know, I did the best I could when I was a Sunday school teacher and a prayer warrior at a Pentecostal holiness church. And my ex-husband of 12 years, he was a deacon of the church. But he was only a deacon of the church within the church doors. When he walked outside those doors, he was a completely different person. And I tried to cover that up and change that for as long as I could. And you know what? I did fall into a lesbian relationship. But I would not have anyone in my child's life if they were not good for my children. If this woman was not good for my children and did not teach them good values, she wouldn't be in it, because I am a mother. These are my kids, and I'm not going to put their lives at risk.
Ma'am, you're going to be mad at me for saying this, but just the fact that you are showing your children a homosexual relationship is teaching them bad values.
Many people are teaching them bad values just by judging other people. I don't want my children to judge other people. I want them to have an open mind, because you're going to have to deal with people every day that you don't like and you don't agree with, but you still have to live on this earth with them. And yes, if you have different values, you need to teach them or tell them your ways, but not throw it in their face. Because you know what? I mean, if homosexuals aren't, if the churches aren't open to homosexuals, how are we going to learn your ways? If you're so closed off and your doors are shut to us, what's good? What are we coming in there for? Why do we want to be a Christian if you guys don't even accept us? You accept alcoholics, gamblers. You can't accept homosexuals.
I would say this
got a good point.
bad value to teach your
He
kids.
has an excellent point here. And Crystal, I don't know you, and I don't know about your relationship. I hope that we can be friends in the future after time of trust and all that. But I'm not going to tell somebody I don't even know how to run their life. I'm sorry, it's not my way.
Well, and again, I don't want anybody to think that the church, for any reason, is closed off to somebody because of their particular sin. Heck, we'd even have Heathen Tommy come in as long as we could try to straighten him out. But the thing about it is again, we bring people into the church to show them the love of Christ so they can be healed of the cancer that they have, which is sin.
People have to feel accepted to change their point of view. They have to feel like someone cares about them in order for someone to influence them in that way, no matter what it is.
Relational rent. I'm very familiar with that. I've been a pastor and a preacher for over 20 years, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. But the thing about it is, you can be accepted as a person for who you are, but not for what you do or your addiction. Like Tommy the heathen over here.
Hey, if God doesn't condemn you, what business have I got condemning you for anything?
Where do you think God doesn't condemn you for breaking?
I'm not talking to you, my brother. I was talking to our other neighbors.
Don't call me brother. Don't call me brother.
I'll call you what I please to call you.
There you go. You won't call me nothing now, Jack.
Well, guys, I'll be back in a little bit. Hopefully everybody can get along. And I do want to say from myself, I apologize if the room has become uncomfortable for you, Gray, as well as Crystal. I do apologize if you feel that way. Things, I feel, get too aggressive, Hillbilly. It's one thing to tell people something once, but just continuously shoving it down their throat doesn't feel like love. It feels a little bit more like condemnation. We have to be careful. Be right back.
Brett, I appreciate you saying that, and I just want to thank everybody in the room tonight. I am going to go to bed. I enjoyed being in here. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
As for me, I mean, I like to hear everybody's point of view. I'm not closed-minded. I like to hear where you're coming from. I like to hear how you, I mean, for having less words, how you fight back. Because, I mean, this is how you guys feel. This is how I feel. And I do want to hear your views. And I'm not angry at anybody for what they said, because I've been on both ends of this pole. I've been on the Christian end where I don't believe in homosexuality and it shouldn't be there. And even though I'm thinking about it every day, maybe cut my brain out, because you can't poke out my eyes or cut off my hands and take away these thoughts. They kept reoccurring. And either I'm going to be happy and lead my life the best I can and raise children the best way I can and live on this earth without nobody knowing, anybody around me. I don't have to come out and say, oh, I'm gay. No, people think I'm straight when they look at me, when they talk to me. It's not something that I have to tell everybody that I'm around. So I can live how I need to live. What people do in their bedroom is their business. I'm not asking you guys what your fantasies are, what's the things that you do that nobody sees. No, I don't, because what's behind your doors is behind your doors. What's behind my doors is behind my doors. I'm not hurting anyone in my bedroom.
I never wanted you to think that I was belittling you for anything, but you are hurting someone. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting the person that you're in a relationship with. You're hurting your children. You're hurting your society. So unfortunately, you need to realize that. Now, when it comes down to the church accepts everyone. The church is not a clubhouse for saints. It's a hospital for sinners. And when we have people, no matter who they are, come into the church, we don't have any misunderstandings that they are perfect, that they do not have some kind of sin in their life. No, we just know that they need Christ in their life. And you want to stop having feelings and having those thoughts and things like that. When that starts to happen, go crack open your Bible and start reading. Get an accountability partner. There's, I'm helping 2 different gentlemen right now that are going through some tough times, basically because they need somebody that can relate to them. Here we go again, a man relating to a man about a subject that men go through. That's what I'm talking about. That's what your kids need. And that's just the truth. So I wish you the best. God bless you. And have a good evening.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Blessed is the one who does not condemn himself for what he allows. It's okay. Okay.
I was pushed out of a church that I was highly involved in. Because I became gay. I did not feel welcome there anymore. And nothing in my life has changed besides wanting to walk in the doors of a church. Nothing has changed besides me being with a woman. That's the only thing that's changed. I hold true to everything that I held true to before. I don't believe in hurting people. It's just like I have the mind of a Christian, but I am a lesbian. And the church does not accept me like that, and they have hurt me because all these people I love, care about, still do. They don't accept me anymore because I'm a sinner, even though they can walk out the doors and go drink a pint of vodka every day, or they can walk out and go to a whorehouse. It doesn't matter. How can you view me? Because I'm open about it and because you know my secrets, I don't know yours, and it's just not fair. It's very condemning, and I don't believe in judging people.
I don't stand in judgment over anybody. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's what the Bible says. But the truth is this. You can't take your personal sin. I can't take my personal sin. Saint Tommy can't take his ignorance and try and preach a false gospel and say, this is the way it is. I don't care what God says. You're going to accept me the way I am. Because God says that any type of sexual activity outside of the institution of the way God created marriage to be, one man and one woman, is a sin. And the Bible says there will be no homosexuals, no effeminate, no liars will enter into the gates of heaven. And you can repent of that. I've repented of my sins. I hope someday Tommy repents of his false gospel. But here's what it boils down to, man. People like myself, people like Brett, care enough about you to tell you the truth, want you to come back, have a good conversation. Don't think for a second that I'm trying to be mean to you. I'm not. I am passionate about God and God's love. I'm passionate about letting people know that, hey, if God can forgive me, he can forgive anybody, including Tommy the heathen.
I would like to ask a quick question to Tommy. Do you have a YouTube channel? And if so, and if not, why not? Because I feel I was talking to a friend about me being on yesterday, and I sent him the link to the Google Hangout that I was in from yesterday. Because me and him are friends, and he's a Christian, and I'm not, which is, you know, it's cool to be able to see each other's points of views. But we were wondering, Tommy, if you had a YouTube channel and if you ever planned on having one, because we were both, from him watching the video and from me being here and being able to talk to you, we both thought you seemed very open-minded and cool.
Hey, thanks. That's honoring to me, and I hope I'm encouraging to you and others. And I preach grace because I believe it's to be the truth. I may not be perfect in my understanding of these subjective things, but I am sincere. And I do have a YouTube channel. But about 8 months ago, I just started doing live interaction and stopped making videos. But thank you for those kind words. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm back, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm glad to have all of you in here and everything. I know folks get passionate and loving and all that kind of stuff. Yep. So what's the topic now? Everybody cooled down, hopefully?
The topic is sincerity and how Tommy thinks himself to be sincere. And you know what? Hitler was sincere about his beliefs, too. He was equally as wrong.
All right.
I guess I ought to take it that things ain't cooled down. Maybe I need another 3 minutes.
Yeah, poor Hitler. His brain was ate up with syphilis. He was doped up all the time on sleeping pills and narcotics and God only knows what.
I've heard that he had a prescription for cocaine as well. That's something I've heard. But.
Poor fella. Maybe the grace of God is even big enough for him, maybe. You know? For our Hitler. I hope so.
Yeah. I like to see people like Tommy, as someone who isn't a Christian, to see open-minded people and to see people who aren't objective to the idea of someone not agreeing with their beliefs. I enjoy that. And I'm about ready to go, so I'd just like to have a couple leaving words, if I may. I don't know if I'll be back for another hangout or not, but I'd just like to quickly say to Brett, as much as there...
Grace, you're always welcome to come in the room. Let's just not antagonize each other if possible. I had an allergy headache yesterday. I wasn't in no kind of mood.
Fair enough. I would just like to say, there are obviously things that we disagree on. There have been things that I don't like that you've done, and I'm sure there are things that you don't like that I've done that you just don't know about. And I know we have our big disagreements. We're on kind of polar opposite sides of the spectrum. But I would like to say thanks for allowing me to come in here and talk, and it's a pretty nice environment most of the time. And as much as we're going to have our disagreements, and I don't think that's probably ever going to change, I think it's cool that you do these hangouts and, you know, let people talk and have their word. So thank you for allowing me to come in, and I will be leaving.
Well,
Goodbye.
it's nice talking to you, man, and hopefully we can find some common ground. That's what's important.
Yeah, and we definitely have. We've definitely agreed on some things. And
Have a
that's
good
great.
evening, sir. Good talking to you.
Thank you. Good talking to all of you. I might be around for another hangout. I'm not sure. Just comes down to whenever I have time and whenever they're up. So I will see you all, and thanks for having me.
Well, see you later. Adam, this is the first time I think I've ever talked to you, or at least seen you on cam before. You were stating that at one point in time you were a God believer, then became an atheist and all that. Would you like to share any of this?
Oh, I mean, there's not really much to say. I mean, like, it was just when I was a child. When I was a child, that was all.
But you're still open to the possibility of God, right?
Honestly, I think like you said earlier, I think if God did come down, or if another Jesus came, I don't think I believe it. I think even if someone walks across water or something like that, I think it's a trick. I do not think I'd be swayed, honestly.
Well, just keep yourself open to possibilities and always seek the truth, and I don't think you could go wrong there.
Yeah, no, but in any case, I mean, it's nice to listen to you guys. I mean, obviously, you three, I don't know about, is Pierce, is he a Christian?
Pierce is actually a non-believer, but sometimes when the conversation goes a direction he doesn't want to hear, he'll turn on his Xbox or PlayStation and go to work.
Okay. Okay, yeah, no, no, I'm just saying it's good to hear different opinions from you three Christians at least, because I mean when you turn on the news and it's very atheist against Christian, or it's there's no real difference in the views between the Christians that you see on the television, for example, in the newspapers. People with certain religions, they're bunched together, and it's good to see the variation.
I can't watch the news if they're talking about Christians and they're talking about something nasty. If they're talking about atheists and some guy killed Muslims out in a parking lot, it's disgusting. The news is horrible.
I mean, particularly in, I don't know, well, in America, you've got pretty bad news as well, haven't you, with Fox and we have the equivalent with Sky in England, but yeah.
Because we don't care about the news in America. We care about high ratings and we care about swimming in blood for money. That's what it's about in America.
Yeah. So, and obviously it makes good the conversations, but yeah. Apart from that, it's I've started to like watch the news less, but I mean I still read the news because obviously you need to know what's going on. I don't trust half of the news either, but I don't know.
Kind of reminds me, Mr. Hillbilly and Adam, what Dennis O'Leary said. Are you too familiar with Dennis O'Leary?
I'm not.
Well, he's been in movies. He was the main star of a show called Rescue Me. He's a comedian. He came up with an album called No Cure for Cancer or something like that. And he said this. He goes, when I watch the news, you hear about all this war, death, and destruction. It's almost like we're living in the apocalypse. But the moment I turn my television off and I open my door and step outside, the grass is green and the sky is blue, and it's so beautiful and mystifying, relaxing. He goes, that's how you stop it all. Just turn it off.
Yeah, I do remember that.
That's good. I hadn't heard that before, but that is definitely yeah. I mean that's true, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, when you get a chance, you could check him out. He does say some very phenomenal things, but he does have this comedian aspect. He made a song a while back called "I'm an Asshole."
Okay. What was it called?
It was called "I'm an Asshole."
No. What was his name?
Dennis O'Leary. He's pretty funny, real good actor and all that. He comes up with some great points. He kind of reminds me of the Irish version of George Carlin a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I see it. I'm looking at it on Google now.
I'm surprised you haven't heard of him. The guy's pretty awesome at what he does. So, Hillbilly, how you been doing everything? I heard you earlier talking about teaching children how to do the airplanes and all that. Man, I used to love that when I was a kid.
I've been doing okay. I don't know if I told you or not, but my wife had 2 strokes, and she's had a lesion on the base of her brainstem, and I mean, it's just been one thing after another. So yeah, it's been difficult, but hey, we had to move out of the house because our air conditioner blew up, and you know the house was built in 1920, and in order to fix that, that was going to take 10 grand, which I didn't have. And then of course now with her needing to have handicap accessible rooms, which of course a 1920s house was not built that way. It was going to cost another 40 grand to have that made happen. Now the house is worth about 60. I'm like, well, we're moving.
Yes, one of the things I've always admired about you, Hillbilly, that no matter how hard or nasty of a curveball life throws at you and stuff, you try your best to smile, and you try the best you do to do things no matter what kind of pressure and stress you are. There's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to handle it, but I mean, you're a powerful man to be able to handle that, and I love you for it.
Well, thank you, Brother Brett, and I tell you what, I'm not going to say that it didn't get me down, because it sure did there for a bit, because when you live someplace for 10 years and you think, man, this is got some great neighbors, got some family right here close, I mean, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it rocked my world a little bit, I got to admit. But then I prayed about it and was sitting on the front porch with the missus, and we were having our devotion time, and we're still in the same book. We were talking about the book of Nehemiah, and how Nehemiah had been called by God to another place outside of his comfort zone, outside of where he was and what he was doing, to do some specific work that God wanted him to do. And ever since that moment, I've looked at this in a totally different light, and it's really helped me out. You know how it is when you read the Bible, you read it one day, and it says this to your heart. Then you go back 2 months later, maybe 2 years later, you read the same darn passage, and that same passage is now going to speak to your heart in a brand new way. And that's exactly what this did. And it's been like a new ministry for me. I'm in an apartment complex now. I'm a neighborhood. I knew almost all my neighbors, which is about a dozen or so. But heck, I've got this apartment complex. There's tons of people here. All the kids know me. They all call me Batman. My dog's got bat ears. He's a French bulldog, so they call her Bat Dog. And I get to preach to them. I get to tell them about creation, how things are made. I get to preach to the kids on the bus. I mean, it's just been, God has used these things that I would not and still do not consider pleasurable, because I hate moving. But God used them for His glory, and I'm so, so happy to have been able to be a part of that. And Brother Brett, let me go ahead and tell you, sir, I love the fact of how far you've come, and the fact that you are being more of the mediator than the instigator. Brother Brett.
Yeah, I was rough back then, that's for sure.
I tell you what, we both have come a ways. We both have come a ways. But I will say this, I don't know how to say it without sounding somewhat condescending, but I'm proud of you, man. I am.
I don't see that as condescending at all. I'm proud of many of the great things that you've done, and whenever you talk about what you've been doing for these children and how you've been struggling, but you still keep on coming out on top and everything, it's commendable. I admire that about you. I don't think I'll ever stop admiring you for this.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Some people, when you try and give them compliments like that, they look at it like you're talking to them like a child, but I just know from where we were when we first started chatting and talking and debating, and to where we are now, and the years that have gone by, and the many different conversations, and it has just been, it's almost like it was yesterday, and I'm looking at it going, wow, God can change anybody, and He wants to change everybody. I mean, if He could change me from what I was, He can change anybody.
Yeah, but the thing is, Hillbilly, is that guys like you and I, we're always open to seeking some kind of truth, even in our darkest hour. There's some individuals that are content and wallowing in the mud and the dirt, and they just have no interest in doing something with their existence. Guys like us, we continue to hold on to the track even when things were their hardest. And I think that's the difference between us and other individuals who may be sharing similar experiences. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, I sure do. Last night, as a matter of fact, I was in a chat room with an individual who does just that, and you've tried to help this person, I've tried to help this person, and I was tired. I'd worked a long day. I broke a piece of equipment that I just bought not 6 months ago, and I was mad about that. That kind of sets a tone sometimes for a conversation. And this person was blah blah blah, poor pitiful me, nobody's sending me no money, and I'm like, hey, just stand up and be the man you were designed to be. Nobody wants to hear this crap. And then I just remembered what I had on my manuscript when I was in the mortgage business for 20 years. It was at the bottom footer of my letterhead. It said Colossians 3:23, work hard and cheerfully at whatever you do, as though you're working for the Lord rather than for people. And once you start doing that, and that's why I kept trying to tell this person, if you'll start out with that attitude, it's going to feel fake at first, because it is. But you can talk your body, your mind into being more positive. Wallowing around in your self-pity doesn't do nothing for nobody.
I hear you. I have a feeling I know who you're talking about. Hey, Nephilim Free, welcome to the room. I hope you've been doing well. I know you've been going through some challenges and struggles yourself and still trying to rock and roll. How you doing?
I'm making it. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it myself. Hillbilly, you were telling me about some of the hard times that happened in the past. As you probably know, a few years ago, I lost a home where I felt like I had lost just literally almost everything in that process. I felt like that. But it's funny because later on I ended up finding out that there was problems with the foundation of that house that I was living in, and that sooner or later was going to fall to pieces. But at the time I felt like I lost damn near everything. But if I would have stayed, the house could have caved in on my family. So God was working it. And just didn't let me know at the moment that he wanted to get me out of the roof fall.
What is so amazing is that a very similar thing happened with this house that we just left. I knew that my wife was having respiratory problems. She's always had asthma to certain degrees, and I'd had it as a juvenile. But then I got that bout of pneumonia, was in intensive care for 6 days, and they thought I was literally going to die. And every time I would go back to the house to try and clean things out, I could just literally feel like somebody was going to put, a band around my chest and squeeze the life out of me. And so got to find out there was black mold. One of the sump pumps underneath the house, underneath the crawl space, had quit working for who knows how many years. I didn't even know it was there. And there was black mold underneath the house and underneath the bathroom area, our one and only bathroom. And God got us out of that house. It's like you said.
It's amazing when you're going through something at the moment and everything, and it seems pretty hardcore, and it's like, God, why? What's going on here and everything? And then you discover down the road that it was the best path. Of course, there are some things that we may never understand, some things that affect us and hurt us that we have no answer for and everything. But I'm willing to be open that in the end it'll all be made and understood for me.
Amen to that. I equate that to my dog. My dog's got a hematoma in her ear, and that's basically, this particular breed of dog has very thin ears, and when they shake their head vigorously, it gets a pool of blood, that hematoma in there. And it can clot, and you have to either take her to a vet and get it drained, or you got to drain it yourself. Well, not having any money, that means I'm draining it myself. Well, my dog doesn't understand why I'm sticking her in the ear with a needle, trying to suck her blood out, She's freaking out. She's shaking. She's scared. She's hurt. But when it's all said and done, I've done something for her that she needed to have done, and she may never realize, probably never will realize, that I did what was in her best interest. And that's what God is always doing. He's always looking out for our best interest. But on that note, Brother Brett, it's 10:30, and I got to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So, man, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. Tell the missus I said hi, and God bless you, my friend.
I see you later, man. God bless you. Now, Flim, you going to hang out with me for a little bit, or do I got to shut this thing down? Because I don't want to talk to myself.
Yeah, I hear you. I wish I could. I can't stay up late tonight. I'm getting up at 5 myself, so tonight's early to bed, early rise day. But I wish I could have joined earlier.
It's all good. It was some interesting subjects. Things got heated as usual and all that.
Yeah, I've been away. I've been so busy lately. I hadn't even been home until not too long ago. Well, I guess I am going to cut out then. Wish I could stick around, but I got to hit the hay real soon here. I hope you had a good one, though, Brett. Maybe next time I'll catch you earlier in the evening, be able to stay a while.
When you open up a room, I'll try my best to get in there. Sometimes we accidentally open up rooms at the same time. We're going to have to put our heads together before all that so I can get over there.
All right. Okay, well, have a good evening, buddy. Take care of yourself. God bless.
See you later, and God bless you, Neff.
All right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Brett Keene from God TV Radio. I suspect if anybody else wanted to chat, they'd come on in and do that. The link has been out there. We've had a good conversation. I feel like some people may have had their feelings hurt, but hopefully through time, people will be able to learn to trust each other and be able to talk about things without getting angry or upset. And, of course, other people try not to be as aggressive at times. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to Brett Keene.